Chapter 41. We walked further into the dungeon and the swamp just got deeper and deeper. Corey spoke up. Troll, 50 m to our left. I turned and ran towards it immediately. 10 seconds later I was face to face with the creature. It was pretty much identical to the last troll we encountered. I erupted into flames and turned on my inspect skill. LV 152. I smirked and sprinted towards the troll. It awkwardly moved its long arms around and charged at me as well. In one flaming strike I sliced the troll's head clean off. This time I made sure to leave fire residue behind. The body of the troll fell to its knees and the flames of my attack burned brightly along the area where I cut. Just to be sure, I lunged in for a final blow and sliced its body in two while releasing a large amount of fire magic inside the corpse. Moments later the beast was burning to ash. I heard the ringing that confirmed this troll's demise. Level up! Level up! I could see Corey and Talia running up behind me about 10 m away. I did sprint off alone. Maybe I should have waited. The ashy corpse of the troll started to glow blue. I stepped back and saw that it was just a text box. Use absorption. Skill. Self-regeneration. Yes. No. I chose yes and stood there curiously over the ashy body as it disappeared. It let me use my skill this time. The only explanation I can think of is that I landed the final hit. Maybe that's a hidden condition for my absorption skill. It makes sense. I opened my status to check it out. Status open. Name J Soju. Level 144. HP 725/725.
MP 530-725.
Strength 347 plus 125. Speed 412. Agility 430. Defense 310 plus 124. Mental strength 347 plus 69. Skills: absorption, swordsmanship, combat magic, fire summoning, inspect, special grade, enemy detection, body hardening, special grade, self-regeneration, items equipped, golden wolf ring, plus 20% mental strength, cyclops eye pendant, plus 40% defense, stainless steel sword, plus 125 strength. Corey and Talia arrived seconds later. I'm glad they didn't see me kill that troll. It's a blessing in disguise that I'm so rash sometimes. I don't know if anyone else can see my absorption text. I've never tested it out, and today isn't the day to do so. Talia looked at me with a proud look on her face. Good job. I'm happy for ya. Looks like you can handle these guys yourself. That's good to know, but we should still stick close together. Mutants aren't too uncommon in the capital dungeons. There's a lot of concentrated magic here. 1 in every 20 or so monsters is a mutant. I've personally never seen one in the troll dungeon, but you never know. Just a heads up. My eyes lit up. I had no idea. Does that mean there are a lot of dungeon breaks in the capital? No one seems to be too worried at all. How does it work here? There's dungeon breaks pretty often, actually. Most of the ED and C-class dungeons are pretty packed in the city, though. If there's ever a break, usually many competent teams are already inside and deal with the matter. Makes sense. Even if monsters were to get out, they would have a very hard time getting anywhere. Each dungeon portal is separated from the outside world. They're only connected to the dungeon hub. The Hunters Association has many guards on duty that can take care of any potential leaks as well. I nodded as the troll disappeared. I picked up its mana crystal. It was pretty heavy. Wait, what about the B-class dungeons? Or even A-class dungeons? I've never even heard of those, to be honest. Talia smirked. We started walking deeper into the dungeon as Corey opened up portals around us occasionally. You're funny. You really have no idea about anything in the capital. Did you grow up on a farm or something? No, well, pretty much, I guess. My hometown is pretty small. Who cares though? What happens if a B or A class dungeon breaks? Well, there hasn't been a B-class break in years. It takes a lot of stored-up magic for something like that to happen. One of the top 3 guilds would probably take care of it if that happened. I assume it would cause a lot of damage to the city, but they could handle it. And an A-class? Talia raised an eyebrow and grinned. Well, we'd all be screwed. I looked at her with concern. What do you mean we'd all be screwed? The top 3 guilds can't handle an A-class break? What about the Hunters Association? Talia laughed and just looked straight ahead. There won't be an A-class dungeon break. Those are unheard of, not since the Great War at least. Really? Yeah, we only have like 4 A-class hunters in this whole country. You think they'd hang around in the Vice region? I guess you're right. There's barely any high-rated B-class dungeons for hunters to train at, If you want to get stronger as a B rank, you have to do so by other means. I don't need to think about that right now, I was just curious about the breaks. Thanks. Talia smiled. Haha, no, you're fine. You kind of remind me of Corey when we met back in the Bedrock region. Corey put on a light grin. Troll 70M to our right. Talia nodded and her face tightened up into battle mode. Let's head out. Jay, you had the last fight. I can handle this one. Be my close backup. Got it. A minute or so later, the troll was dead on the ground after Talia attacked it ruthlessly and Corey finished it off with the firestone in his storage system. We hunted down trolls and alternated between killing them for another 6 hours. We faced off against 18 more monsters. I personally fought 9 of them. The last 5 I decided to stop using my fire magic to preserve MP. I had to drink my E-class potion and was running low. After all these fights and a plus 500 reset, I was at 295 MP remaining. Overall, I gained a lot of EXP as well. I leveled up 8 more times. The last couple trolls didn't boost my EXP much. It was nice while it lasted though. My experience rose a lot. I'm level 152 now. Hey, do you have any MP potions on you? I'm fresh out. It's not urgent, but a couple more fights and I'll be at 0. She lifted her shirt on right side to reveal a small belt with a glowing pink potion. Yeah, just one, you can have it if you need it. I think it might be better to just call it a day instead. Talia made the call. I think we're solid. Pack it in and divide the loot. We all nodded at each other. I replied, yeah, time to call it. Great hunt today, we made a killing. Way more than your average 5 each day, I assume. I'm glad I met you too. Talia smirked and gave Corey a quick glance. Yeah, our 5 each is from a 5-person crew. We didn't do that much better than usual. It's just a better split. Ah, cool. The EXP today was great. I went up a ton of levels. Yeah, the EXP split was pretty good too. I gained a few today as well. Sadly, Corey probably didn't gain a single one. We'll have to farm a bit in a lower dungeon soon to even out. Corey nodded and smiled thinly at Talia. I was a bit confused. She could see it on my face. The Firestone kills don't count as Corey's kill. He didn't get the EXP share all day. It was just us. Oh, that's rough. Well, at least we all made some good profit. Let's head back. We all started walking back in the direction of the dungeon exit. The ground was getting a bit less wet and the swampland was clearing up. We were less than 1 kilometer away, I could tell. There was just an odd feeling I couldn't shake. We were definitely being watched. I activated my enemy detection and scanned the area. There was nothing close by. As I lengthened the range, I could feel my MP being drained. I turned it off just in case. Corey, do you feel that? Is there anything nearby? I feel it, but I cannot find anything nearby. We continued walking towards the dungeon exit. I gripped my sword tight and was ready for a battle at any moment. Talia and I walked up front. Corey stayed behind scanning the area. About 30 very tense seconds later, Corey spoke up. Something big. 150M straight ahead. I turned back to him. How big? What do you mean? 100M now, it's coming. I turned back and readied my blade. No more time for talking, it's time to fight. Moments later, the trees ahead started to shake and the water in the shallow swamp rippled violently. Then I saw a massive creature burst out from the trees and let out a shriek as it stared us all down with bloodshot eyes. Crew Woower. It's a mutant troll. Chapter 42. The mutant troll stood in front of us with its long arms reaching close to the ground. The monster's right hand held a large axe and its left was glistening with sharp claws. It stood almost 5 m tall and was a much darker shade of green than our previous opponents. I used my inspect skill. LV 172. It doesn't seem too bad. The level 150s were a piece of cake. This one might be a bit stronger, but Talia and I can handle it. The monster roared as we ran towards it. The massive troll swung its axe erratically and hit nearby trees while charging towards us. I broke off to the right side and Talia moved to the left. We were both much faster than this beast. It'll definitely be an easy fight. Moments later we weaved in and out of the trees, avoiding the monster's random attacks, and each of us sliced clean through its legs. Thudded. The troll fell flat on its face. I grinned and made eye contact with Talia as we turned to finish it off. The instant I turned back, my eyes went wide. The 2 legs we cut were moving around on their own, and they were mutating rapidly. Seconds later, the 2 legs had formed into normal-sized trolls. This can't be normal. We need fire. I yelled and scanned the battlefield for Corey. I could burn them to a crisp, but I wouldn't have much MP left for the boss. I finally found him 30 m away, standing back behind a tree. Corey, come help Talia with these 2. Let me handle the big guy. He nodded and started to sprint around the outside of the battleground. I looked at Talia. She understood. I'll handle them. You take out the mutant. I gritted my teeth and tightened the grip on my sword as I charged in towards the massive troll. Its legs were growing back at a rapid rate. It had much faster regeneration than the prior trolls. I erupted into flames and focused everything I had into my sword. I jumped directly at the beast's face. Clang! The troll made an erratic movement with its right arm and somehow blocked my swing with its axe. I landed back on the ground about 5 m in front of the troll. Ah, so you're a crafty mother f dash. Crew you a were. I grinned and looked up at the beast. Looks like I'll have to try plan B. I charged towards its right side in a full sprint. It countered by swinging its axe around in circles like a maniac. I dodged across its body to its left and didn't even try to attack. It awkwardly swung its claws at me but missed. This monster clearly relied on its axe for attacks and defense. I made my way to its backside and planted my left leg to jump up without hesitating for a second. I concentrated every last bit of MP into a swing of fire. Shing! Thud! Clean hit. I managed to cut its head off. I landed and fell to one knee. I hate the feeling of being fresh out of MP. It makes me feel lazy and in a bit of a daze. I'll be fine, it's just not the optimal mood to be in mid-battle. I scanned the battlefield for my teammates. I could see Corey and Talia running towards me with 2 flaming corpses behind them. I yelled towards Corey. Finish it. He nodded and started glowing white. Corey used the fire stone to burn the rest of this beast to ash. It's not the most effective combat item or skill in my opinion. It leaves him wide open for attacks, but when Corey catches an enemy off guard, that thing is pretty dangerous. Still leaves me in awe, to be honest. It's done. I heard the system ringing in my head again. He's right, it is done. I smiled. Level up. Level up. Level up. Name, J. Soch. Level, 155. HP, 780/780. MP, 0/780. Strength, 373, plus 125. Speed, 443. Agility, 463. Defense, 334, plus 134. Mental strength, 373, plus 75. Skills, absorption, swordsmanship, combat magic, fire summoning, inspect, special grade, enemy detection, body hardening, special grade, self-regeneration, items equipped, golden wolf ring, plus 20% mental strength, Cyclops eye pendant, plus 40% defense, stainless steel sword, plus 125 strength. Clang! I heard the sound of metal hitting rock and turned my head quickly. The large axe form the mutant fell to the swamp bed. It hit a small patch of rocks on the way down. Talia looked over at the two-leg corpses that dissolved but didn't find any mana in them. The mutant dropped a huge crystal. We all took turns holding it for a second. Then I spoke up. Let's get out of here right now, my MP is drained. I couldn't fight another one of those if I wanted to. Talia's eyes perked up the moment I said that. She turned to Corey and gave him a light nod. He returned it. Talia spoke up. You're out of MP, huh? They both turned to me with grins on their faces. Talia took out her sword and Corey started glowing. Reflexively, I lifted my own sword, but it felt awkward in my hands. I have 0 MP left. My sword is basically useless right now. I gulped. Hey, why are you two looking at me like that? What's wrong? Talia's eyes were wide open and her grin looked creepy. Oh, nothing's wrong. I have to thank you for your work today. Newbies in the city usually aren't as skilled as you. We made a whole lot today. Split between the two of us, I reckon we have over 15 silver each. And that's not even including the axe or your sword. I gripped my sword and sweat started forming on my forehead. The two of us? There's 3 people here? And my sword. Talia's deadly stare didn't waver for a second. You really are a piece of work, aren't you, Jay? It's a shame. We kill fresh meat that walks into the city and take the loot for ourselves. Don't you get it? You're going to die here. Talia started to lunge towards me with her sword pointed at my neck. She's really trying to kill me, and at this rate she might actually succeed. I have to think of something fast. I immediately ran to my left to dodge her sword and get on some more stable ground. If we fight one-on-one right now, it will only end badly for me. I have to run. That's my only option. I turned around and started sprinting towards the direction of the exit portal. A bright, glowing white light started to flood my field of vision. Then it turned dark red. Corey stood in front of me now with a portal wide open full of flames blocking my only path. Everywhere else was deep swamp water. If I took the time to swim through it, Talia would catch up for sure. I lifted my sword and stared him down. It just felt like a hunk of metal in my hands. Without my passive swordsmanship skill, I'm really naked on the battlefield. You can't run forever. I turned to see Talia close behind, full of killing intent. Why me? What did I do wrong to deserve this? I guess it really is entirely my own fault. If I make it out of this alive, I'll never trust a new face ever again. This is what the world is really like. I've been so naive. They've been hinting their true intentions this whole time. I've just been trying to see the good in people. Is that so wrong? Corey slowly advances, blocking my path forward even more. Talia's blade is less than 5 m away from my torso now. I need to think. I turn to Talia and give it everything I've got. It's better to be cut than burned alive. Clang! Shingig! I managed to block her first strike with a reflexive and simple block. Before she could counter with a second hit, I tried to land a counter. I lunged in towards her right side. With blinding speed, she managed to twist her body away from the sword. It still tore her shirt and ripped the belt off her waist. The cloth and belt fell to the ground. During my attempt for an attack, Talia launched her own. All I could see was a slash of blood and a sharp pain in my shoulder that carried my sword. She ran past me, continuing her trajectory. I tried to swing my sword towards her, but my body wasn't responding. The moment I turned to face her, I saw my own arm falling to the ground with the sword in hand. She sliced off my arm. What a clean hit. I barely felt it. We locked eyes, and she grinned at me. I could feel her evil soul emanating from within. She enjoys this. I'm definitely not her first kill. The next moment I felt 2 more sharp pains. One on my right leg and the other in my abdomen. I fell to the floor next to my sword in a pool of my own blood. I saw a hand grab my sword and felt the item box on my waist get untied and lifted off my body. My vision was getting blurry. This is the end, I guess. I was really killed by a human. It wasn't even a dragon or something cool like that. I didn't even get to save the world while dying. What a sad excuse for a hero's journey. As I heard two sets of footsteps in the damp ground fade away behind me, I saw a glimmer of hope. My eyes went wide. This isn't the end. I have to stop thinking like that. My own severed arm was covering a piece of cloth that looked like Talia's ripped shirt. Underneath it all was a small glass bottle filled with a glowing pink liquid attached to a belt. I used my left arm to pull myself towards it with all the strength left in my body. I inched closer and closer to Talia's fallen MP potion as my body grew weaker and weaker. Chapter 43. I dragged my body along the wet swamp floor towards the faint glow of a pink potion. My arm and leg had been sliced off, and my stomach has a large hole in it. There are 3 smeared trails of blood behind. I finally made it to the pile of cloth on the ground covering the portion of Talia's belt I managed to cut off during our short battle. I grabbed the bottle with my left hand and ripped the cork off with my teeth. I drank the potion and closed my eyes. Magic flowed back into my body. There's only one way I'll make it out of here alive. I have to try my new skill. Self-regeneration. 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 I kept repeating those words over and over in my head while concentrating on my wounds. I could feel the MP being consumed, but also a relaxing warmth came over my whole body. I opened my eyes and looked down to see my arm and leg slowly growing back. I focused even harder and the regrowth started to speed up. This skill is incredible. I can feel my bones and skin regrowing at a rapid rate. Seconds later, I stood to my feet. My shirt sleeve and pant leg were gone along with one of my boots. That didn't matter to me one bit. I stared straight ahead towards the direction my attackers just left. They made the first move and failed to eliminate me. Their lives are fair game. I darted forward, making sure not to make too much noise. My MP was somewhat drained, but I have more than enough in me to plot my revenge. A state of rage came over me. I've never felt this way before. No one has ever deceived me quite like this. I will not forgive them. After a few moments, I heard a voice and slipped behind a tree. Another successful day in Vice City. I think it's about time we head off somewhere else. We might be getting a bit too hot here. One night to celebrate, then let's check out the Nerian region next. I think a top 4 region might be a good change of pace. Befo dash. Enemy 20M behind us. I held my breath. They know an enemy is nearby, but there's no reason to ever guess it's me. I can't believe them. They're just talking casually like this is an everyday thing. How disgusting. I circled around their back and ducked behind the trees. I'm waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I watched them like my prey. I feel true hatred. They tried to kill me and took everything I own. All I did was help them out today. The world really is a cruel place. Now they'll get a taste of their own medicine. Karma always comes back around. There was an opening in the trees. I could see Corey scanning frantically and Talia holding her sword tight, eyeing the trees and turning in circles slowly. Corey was staring directly in my direction, but my tree cover was too dense. I moved closer and closer, making sure not to be seen until I needed to. 10M straight ahead. Talia nodded. I don't hear it at all. Where is this troll? I'm not sure it's a troll. It feels like a human. Talia was inching closer and closer every second. Corey stood close behind her. We were less than 5M apart now. I was knee-deep in swamp water, gripping the backside of a tree. It's time. I focused on my fire magic into my palm to create an orb of glowing red light. This is going to be everything I've got. I only have one shot here. I jumped out from behind the tree onto dry land and lunged forward with all my strength. The look on Talia's face was pure fear, astonishment, and disgust. There was no time for her to even think. I let my orb of fire expand into the image of my lost sword. The flames erupted and devoured my enemy. Shingig! I sliced through Talia's torso and followed through by stabbing Corey in the chest as he stood in awe close behind her. I let my flames expand further, and with a fiery explosion I let out my anger with a blast of flames that depleted my MP back to 0 again. They were both burned to a crisp before I could blink. Clang! I heard multiple items hit the ground along with a familiar ringing sound. Level up! Level up! I leveled up! I couldn't help but to mumble those words out loud. How absurd. I didn't know humans had EXP too. I looked at the ground to see a pile of swords and mana crystals beside Talia's body. The item box must have burned and released all of the gear. That's annoying. When I turned to Corey's body, I grinned with delight. Use absorption. Skill. Spatial magic. Item storage. Yes. No. I chose yes immediately. 2 skills in one day, not bad. I grinned and started to pick up all the gear and loot on the floor. The small items fit fine in my pockets, but the swords and axe sat awkwardly on my back. This'll do for now, though. The bodies started to disappear into the dungeon floor. Corey's started glowing red. As he disappeared, a pile of items fell to the floor. Tons of MP and HP potions along with a few shiny silver coins hit the floor. My eyes went wide. This is everything that was in his dimensional storage compartment, even the firestone. It was boiling the swamp water all around it. This stone is the real deal. Their story about how they got this thing must have been a lie. It's definitely not a D-class item. I picked up an HP and MP potion and chugged both of them. Next I checked my status. Name, J. Soj. Level, 157. HP, 790/790.
MP. 790-790.
Strength, 378. Plus 125. Speed, 449. Agility, 469. Defense, 336. Plus 134. Mental strength, 378. Plus 76. Skills, absorption, swordsmanship, combat magic, fire summoning, inspect, special grade, enemy detection, body hardening, special grade, self-regeneration, spatial magic, item storage, items equipped, golden wolf ring, plus 20% mental strength, cyclops eye pendant, plus 40% defense, stainless steel sword, plus 125 strength. Item storage, huh? I focused on my new skill and started glowing a faint white light. A rectangular tear in space opened up in front of me. I ignited my right hand in flames to reach down to grab the stone. It was burning much hotter than my own flames. I managed to drop it into my mini pocket of space and closed it up. I quickly used self-regeneration to grow the skin back on my hand that had been burned to a crisp. That is one dangerous stone. I could sense it in my pocket world. I'm not sure how to describe it, but this space is now an extension of myself. If I were to open it anywhere, I could definitely sense everything around it. Corey's claims made sense now. I started walking towards the dungeon exit again, but stopped to test one more thing out. I opened up my pocket dimension and concentrated hard on the space within. It was pretty simple to move the stone around within the space. I decide to throw a mana crystal in with it. Looks like it works. I can move things around within the space without them interfering with each other. This means all my new loot and gear will be safe in this pocket world right next to the firestone. I placed everything inside my item storage. I don't even have to buy an item box now. This is great. With a big grin across my face, I continued my trek back to the dungeon exit. I made it to the floating blue portal and jumped through. When I stepped to the other side, I was not alone in the dungeon room. There were 2 tall men in nice suits and well-built frames. One was blonde and clean-shaven. The other had black hair and a beard. They did not look like the types of guys I should be messing with right now. I gave them a nod and tried to walk past to the escalator. One of them moved in front of the moving stairs and spoke up. "Stop right there. We need to have a word with you." They both stared directly at me without wavering an inch. Chapter 44. I froze and looked up at the 2 men in suits. "You need to talk with me? Why's that?" The blonde-haired man in front of the stairs reached into his pocket and pulled out an ID. In big black letters next to his photo, I could read Hunters Association Representative, and beside that, a large letter C. This guy is the real deal. I gulped. "I am, of course. What would you like to talk about?" He grinned and put the card back in his pocket. Come on, walk with us. I'd rather speak in private. I agreed and followed the men down the escalator. What else could I do right now? I probably did look pretty suspicious. All my items are in my item storage. It looks like I came out of that dungeon with nothing on me. Half my clothes are ripped off too. That can't help. After boarding the train, we made it back to the main dungeon hub pretty quickly. I just stood next to them in awkward silence as the cement walls flew by. We walked through the crowds of people in the main hub back up to the surface, and they lead me down the street a few blocks. It was still awkward and silent. My heart was starting to beat out of my chest. My foot hurts too. I didn't even think about how uncomfortable it'd be to walk around with no shoe on. We made it to a large silver tower with the association's logo on the entrance. This must be one of their main buildings in the capital. It's so much bigger than the one I go to back home. The men opened the front door, and we were immediately greeted by a tall, dark-featured woman in the lobby. Welcome back, sirs. The blonde man nodded and walked straight towards an elevator at the back of the room. The other man motioned me to follow. I complied, and we rode the elevator up to the 17th floor. They lead me to an office room. It was just us now. My heart continued to pound loudly. I could feel it in my ears. The walls were white and the room hummed with the faint sound of a mana shield. This is a magic interrogation room. There were a few comfortable-looking seats in a triangle all facing each other. We sat down. The man spoke up. We've been tailing you since this morning. There's no point in lying to us. I stared straight ahead at both of them. Why? What did I do wrong? You're not in the wrong here. We'd just like to hear the full story without any outside interference. The whole story? What do you mean? I'm not sure exactly what they know, and what they're trying to make me admit. I doubt they're really on my side in this whole situation. What are your names anyway? If I'm not in the wrong here, this is no way to treat a guest. I'm Daniel. This is Kenji. He pointed to the man with black hair. He smiled at me. Okay, cool.
I'm Jay.
I took a deep breath and tried to relax a bit. I am in the Hunters Association building after all. I didn't really do anything wrong. I should calm down and act like it. Daniel spoke up. The two hunters that recruited you to go dungeon diving with them this morning. I eyed him carefully. What about them? Well, I can't help but notice they did not come out of the dungeon with you today. I'd like you to give us a full report on the incident. I'm not sure I can say exact. They're wanted criminals, you know. My eyes perked up a bit. Wanted criminals? For what? Well, they're some of the suspected collaborators in a large-scale robbery that took place about a month ago in the Bedrock region. There's a jurisdiction issue when crossing regional borders. The old reports had to be filed and sent to us here in the Vice region before we could formally go after the two of them. I nodded while looking down at the floor. Why would they be dungeon diving then? There's no logical reason. Well, it seems recently they've been on a streak of killing rookies and taking their loot. Old habits die hard. There's been an increased amount of alerts from the troll dungeon reporting casualties. Most people aren't stupid enough to go in there without the proper gear or preparation. We sent D-class scouts to investigate this week and found a common link between these two and the missing hunters. I guess it's just your lucky day we were called in to confront them. Although, it seems as if you've already done the confronting for us. We need a full report. I can assure you, this matter will be kept private and you will not be punished. Well, that story clears a few things up. They have been tailing me since this morning too. I really got involved with some horrible people. Lesson learned. They pretty much know everything aside from the fact of how exactly I killed them. It's better I decide the details, rather than them investigating any further. Sure. This all makes a bit more sense now. I'll tell you what happened. The two men sat back with satisfied looks on their faces while I explained the situation from my point of view. The only minor changes I made to the story were that it was me that killed all the trolls with my fire skill. I did not mention any word of the Firestone or Corey's skill. I said that they tried to corner me when we were finished hunting, but I managed to beat them by a hair in battle. Just by looking at me in my rugged state, this is very believable. They wrote everything down in their notebooks and listened quietly. Once I finished, I let out a long sigh and sunk back into my seat. Hey, do you think you guys could hook me up with a pair of boots? Or something? I can pay for them. I just don't feel right hanging around like this. Daniel laughed. Sure. Let's go to a C-class training room. I think it's time we celebrate a mission complete. I'll get you some gear. Gotta hand it to you, Jay. You made our job a whole lot easier today. I let out a thin smile and followed him out the door. We took the elevator down to floor 10 and walked down the hall. It was a very symmetrical floor. There were large reinforced doors on either side of the long white hallway. After a bit of walking, Daniel turned and scanned his card at a door. Clicked and slid open. Take a look inside. This is a C-Class Hunters Association training room. Not too many like it. The walls were all white. They hummed much louder than the room we were in moments ago. It felt like the training room from yesterday. This would hold up against some powerful attacks. Take anything you want from that room over there. It's all brand new, don't worry. A thank you from me to you. Really? Thanks. I walked over to a small rectangle on the wall and pushed it in. That's where Daniel had pointed. It opened up a door that showed me a closet-like compartment in the wall. It was filled with black combat clothing folded perfectly. I took a shirt, new pants, a pair of socks, and some boots. I didn't think twice and just changed there on the spot. Daniel spoke up as I was changing. Hey, what level are you? If you can handle those trolls on your own, you must be a decently high-rated D-class. Plus you're young, only 20, right? I nodded. Yeah, I'm around level 150. Why? He looked a little disappointed when I said that. You're at 150. I guess you'll have to wait for another one. I looked at him with a confused look. Another one of what? What do you mean? He smirked. The C-class exams start in just under 3 weeks. Kenji is participating. You need to be level 250 to apply. They only hold C-class exams every 3 or 4 months in the capital, so it's a pretty big deal every time it comes around. Daniel pointed at Kenji and he spoke up. Yeah, I've been level grinding in these capital dungeons on weekends off of work for almost 4 years now. I took the safe route like most and only challenged bosses with parties, so it's been a slow and steady journey. The association pays C-class reps a ton more though. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. He looked at Daniel and they both grinned. I fell deep into thought. The C-class examines, huh? I had no idea they were so soon. If I can gain around 100 more levels in 3 weeks, I could participate too. If I don't, I'll have to wait another 3 to 4 months to apply. I'll add this to my list of urgent goals. I need to reach level 250. Fast. Chapter 45. Daniel spoke up. You ever think about joining up with the association? I shook myself out of a daydream. No, not really. What are the benefits? It just seems like a lot of work. Daniel and Kenji both started laughing. Yeah, I guess maybe you're right. It is a lot of responsibility, especially here in the city. The upside is we get access to the private dungeons and rare gear to fight with. It's basically everything you'd expect. Understood. I think I'll stick with the public dungeons for now. Daniel nodded slowly. He clearly wanted to ask me something. I looked at your file earlier. For some reason there's a lock on some of your data. Someone must have done it manually at the association building you applied for your D-class rank. I was a bit curious. All the file shows is your rank and that you have 2 skills. There's swordsmanship and some kind of combat fire magic, I assume. There's a lock on my data? Yeah, those are my skills. Why? You definitely get a great position if you want to join us. 2 skill members tend to get special treatment. Feel free to stop by this building anytime. Here, take a card. Daniel handed me a card and I thanked him. The 3 of us continued a bit more small talk for 30 minutes or so. With nothing left to say, I decided it was time to go. They walked with me down to the elevator and out the front door. We shook hands and agreed to see each other in the future sometime. I don't know if it'll really happen. It's just the polite thing to say. The sun was setting now. I made my way towards the market center. It's time to see how much all this loot is worth. I think it'll be a significant amount. After a solid 20 minutes of walking through the crowded streets under the setting sun, I finally made it to the market. Hey kid. Good to see ya. What can I get for you? I grinned. Good to see you too, Roger. I have a ton of mana and a few items I'm looking to sell. You buying? Of course, let me see what you have. He took out a mana scale and I reached into my item storage. I pulled out a pile of mana and placed it on the counter next to the scale. Most of it was from today's hunt, but there was some extra from my old pouch and Corey's old storage system. Next, I took out a pile of potions. There were 4 MP and 3 HP. Lastly, I pulled out the large axe and Talia's old sword. Let's start with the mana. The old merchant's eyes went wide. He pushed all the mana onto the scale. Moments later, the large black numbers read out 3176.60 MU. Now that's a haul. I gotta make some money off it too, you know. I'll give you 30 silver for the whole stack. Yeah, understood. Works for me. How about these potions? Can you tell me what grade they are? The man took a close look at the potions and raised an eyebrow. These are just your average D-class MP and HP potions. You want to sell these? No, I keep those. I was just curious what exactly they were. He nodded and started examining the axe and sword on the counter. All right. This is a 150 strength boost axe. A really good item for auction. You'll make much more there. It'll easily go for over 40 or 50 silver, maybe even more if you find the right buyer. I thought back to my last auction experience and shuddered a bit. How much for it right now? The merchant looked down at the axe again. You'd really get a better price at auction. I don't want to rip you off. I can give you 30 silver for it today. Maybe. How much for the sword? It's a 125 plus strength sword, and it's lightweight too. Not a bad item. Again, it'd go for much more at auction, but I can give you 20 for it right now. Let's do 90 silver for everything. I'm sure those 2 items will make you a profit, you know it too. 90? I guess the axe will sell sooner or later for a good price. I can do that, deal. Great. We shook on it and both walked away happy. I made 90 silver profit in a day. The merchant definitely got some good items for a price well below the market. I don't mind that I could have sold them for more. I'd rather have more time to dive back in the dungeons. The merchant counted out 90 silver and I placed them in my item storage. Thanks, old man. By the way, what are the best dungeons around here for leveling? Are there any monsters with unique abilities? Mid to upper D-class preferably. The best D-class dungeons, huh? Well, if you're looking for a basic fight for levels, you can check out the Minotaur or Lizardmen dungeon. The Minotaur sound cool. What are they like? They have no specific skills, they're just big humanoid bull creatures. The normal monsters are around level 150 to 200. They're one of the go-to leveling dungeons for people trying to rank up to C-class. The monsters travel in groups and have a wide range of level possibilities, so teaming with a party is recommended. Okay, interesting. Anything else? I'm looking for monsters with interesting skills. Stuff I've never seen before, you know? Plus, I hunt solo. I'm trying to get the old man to give me some info so I can search for some useful skills. Ah, you're a solo hunter, huh? Let's see. There's a slime dungeon, they have some odd abilities. The snake dungeon's monsters have a poison skill. There's the advanced ogre dungeons, they have all kinds of magic skills. Definitely stay clear of the advanced ogre dungeons for now if you're all alone though. Trust me. Alright. Noted. No advanced ogres right now. What about the slimes? Aren't those weak starter monsters? How hard could a slime really be? You'd be pretty surprised. They may be in the lower levels of D-class dungeons, but they're tricky to kill. Unless you have some kind of long-range magic, it's hard to attack them without being sucked in. What would happen if you were sucked in? Well, you definitely don't want to find out. I've heard stories of the slime boss sucking hunters dry of MP in seconds. My eyes lit up at the sound of that. A skill that absorbs MP? This could be exactly what I'm looking for. I like the sound of that. Thanks a lot. I'll see you soon. You've been really helpful. I waved the old man off and left with a wide grin on my face. Gurgly.
I'm starving.
Did I even eat this morning? I walked quickly towards the food district area Ray brought me yesterday. I need a good meal and a drink right about now. After a few minutes of walking, I could smell the sweet scent of meat and spices in the air. I searched around for a few minutes and found a nice-looking open bar. I ordered 2 of the large meals my bartender recommended and a tall cold beer. There was music playing and people laughing and talking all around me. I was content to drink, eat, and let my mind wander on its own. I have some good insight on where to get a very valuable skill. I'll be heading to the slime dungeon first thing in the morning to check things out. If I can potentially absorb MP from my opponents, I'll basically have an endless supply. This would solve the majority of my fighting and money problems. Things are about to get very interesting. I finished my meal in peace and paid the bill. I had to break a silver coin. Now I'm carrying around an extra 80 or so bronze in my item storage. I spent around half of the leftover bronze buying a few pairs of clothes on my way back to the inn. Just a few standard black jeans, shirts, underwear, and socks. I needed to wear something this week. I didn't exactly pack for a long trip. After my leisurely walk, I finally made it back. The innkeeper nodded at me and I remembered there was a key to my room. I walked past him into the elevator and frantically sifting through the miscellaneous junk in my item storage. With a sigh, I found my key. I was scared I lost it out in the dungeon. The elevator dinged at floor 10 and I twisted the key to my door moments later. After a nice hot shower, I crawled into bed. I survived another day. Chapter 46. The morning sun woke me up. I feel great. After a quick arm and leg stretch, I got dressed and readied myself for another eventful day. The slime dungeon stood out to me the most. The old man said they were a relatively low level, and long-range magic attacks should be more than enough to handle them. I'm more curious about the abilities he said they had. The boss can steal its opponent's MP. I made my way downstairs and walked out the door towards the dungeon hub. I grabbed a quick bite to eat on the way. The hub was swarming with hunters again this morning. I scanned the area. It'll be good to make a habit of being much more cautious. I'm going in solo from now on. No more teaming, it never seems to go well for me. I walk up to the D-class guard and hand him my ID. Moments later, I make my way down the large escalator to the platform below. On the list of dungeons, it says the slime dungeon is right on the edge of the city. It's a lower grade D-class as expected. I waited patiently, then boarded the train heading off in that direction. Around 20 minutes later, I arrived and made my way up the escalator to find the floating blue portal. I reach into my item storage and pull out my sword while running forward into the dungeon. It's time to kill some slimes. The dungeon is surprisingly bright. I was expecting a dark cave or some kind of mountain range. That's been the common theme lately. I'm standing in a wide open meadow. The grass is short and there are small patches of flowers everywhere. The sky is blue and there are beautiful white clouds floating by. There's no sun, but it feels like a nice hot summer day. I make my way forward into the dungeon with my sword drawn. I can see some weird-looking circular objects in the distance. After a 5-minute walk through the meadow, I came across what I spotted earlier. This is a slime? A huge blue glob of gel just stood in front of me, maybe 2 m in diameter. It was slowly gliding along the ground towards me. I used Inspect to check it out. LV 99. Okay, it's a much lower level than me. This shouldn't be much of a problem. I ran towards the monster and sliced its body clean in half to see how it would react. The body of gel separated, then reattached. Continued its slow glide in my direction. Right? The old merchant said long-range magic would be best against these slime. I'll try out my fire magic, but in a longer range form. I've never really tested it like this before. While putting my sword into my item storage, I stepped back and stood about 10 m away from the slime. I concentrated on focusing my fire magic into the space between both my palms. Instead of shaping it into a sword, I'll just keep it as an orb. I took a deep breath and threw the fire orb like a baseball. It wasn't the coolest looking move, but I'm not sure how else to get the orb moving in that direction. I can't control where my fire travels once it leaves my body. Take this. The orb of fire made impact with the slow-moving slime and it blew up into a huge ball of fire and goo. The slime was mostly incinerated. There was leftover puddles all over the ground. I walked over to check it out. No blue text. I can't use absorption for some reason. Moments later the goo dissolved into the ground and it left behind a tiny mana crystal. Really? This is it. I threw it in my item storage and kept walking deeper into the dungeon. That crystal is the size of a mid-grade E-class at best. I guess these slimes are difficult to kill because they don't take damage from regular physical attacks. But I understand why not many hunters want to come out here. There's basically no loot in this dungeon. It's a total waste of MP. A few minutes later I came across another slime. I used Inspect. LV. 94. I sighed and moved in towards it. I wonder what would happen if I touched it. I have plenty of MP potions on me. If it drains me, there's nothing to worry about. I crept closer to the slime and put out a hand. I shoved it through the side of the slime's body and waited. Nothing happened. I ignited my hand with flames and blew the slime to bits. It was still moving around somehow. I guess it separated in time. I made a couple fire orbs and burned the rest of it with ease. It did use up a good amount of MP though. This is kind of irritating. How are these monsters even classified as a D-class dungeon? The boss must be pretty tough or something. I used enemy detection and found a large concentration of monsters on one end of the dungeon. This must be where the boss is located. I trekked through over for a little less than an hour. Every slime that came near me was an easy victory. After 16 slimes my MP was drained to about halfway. Not too bad. I finally made it to the boss room. This has to be the easiest dungeon I've ever raided. Let's see what this boss has in store. The spinning light gray portal invited me to enter. The boss room is oddly similar to the outside dungeon. There's green grass, a blue sky, and it's well lit in here. The only difference is the large walls enclosing the room. After scanning the area, a large glob of blue slime emerged from the back of the room. It looked about 3 m tall, and a bit darker shade than the normal slimes. I used Inspect. LV. 141. Now that's an upgrade from the other slimes here. But it's still just a slime. With a bored look on my face, I walked over to the monster. It moved towards me quickly as well. Interesting. Looks like this boss has some actual combat ability. I jumped to the right and dodged its forward movement. This thing is pretty quick. I started concentrating a ball of fire in my palm as we stared each other down. While I stared at it, the slime didn't exactly have eyes to look back at me. It just felt like it was staring right at me. A moment later, the slime started gliding towards me at a rapid speed. I continued charging a ball of fire and ran towards it as well. I let out my attack straight at the monster and blew a massive hole clean through it. Over 50% of its mass was incinerated on the spot. I continued my charge past the slime with a smirk on my face. As I ran by, some of the slime's innards landed on my left arm and back. Instantly, I knew something was wrong. That smirk turned serious really quick. This is the skill. My MP. The partial fragments of the slime body were draining my MP fast. Within seconds, I could feel all the magic drain from my body. The rest of the slime crawled closer to me. It was impossible to wipe off, like living sticky water all over my body. The rest of the slime started connecting with it and my body was covered in the goo before I could think of anything. It sucked me up and complete reformed into a large blob in seconds. While suspended in the slime's stomach, my MP is getting sucked dry. I can't breathe inside this monster either. What a predicament. I dropped my guard for a second. I can't underestimate any opponent, not even a slime. I wasn't taking any HP damage, but in less than 5 seconds I could tell my MP has almost hit 0. If I ignite my flames right now, I may do more damage than good. It'll get the slime off me for a moment, but my MP will definitely hit 0. Then I'll be screwed seconds later if it attaches before I have time to act. There's only one thing I can think of that'll work right now. I open up my item storage while floating inside the massive slime and pull out the firestone. Instantly, the slime starts bubbling and melting all around me. A huge hole in the slime opens up and I crawl out to make my escape. I reach into my item storage again to grab an MP potion and chug it on the spot while erupting into flames, burning every last bit of slime residue off my body. I turned to face the slime boss again with newfound respect for the creature. Good try, but that's not going to work on me again. With a slow nod, I formed a fireball with almost all of the MP from a full recovery potion into a massive orb in front of my body. I used both my hands to hurl the attack at the slime boss. A huge explosion completely incinerates the remaining slime's mass. I've won now. I walk over and throw my firestone back into item storage. It burned my hand again. I had to use self-regeneration to fix my skin. Maybe my body hardening will work next time? I have to figure out a way to actually use this thing properly. It's a really powerful stone. The blue text I've been waiting for finally popped up over the remaining goo on the ground. Use absorption. Skill. Plunder. Yes. No. Ah, so it's called plunder, huh? With a grin, I chose yes and collected the mana as the slime disappeared. That makes sense. The skill user is forcefully taking MP from their opponent during battle. Maybe it has other hidden abilities too. I can't wait to see how it works. The white light came and transported me back to the dungeon's start point. I stepped out back into the room connected to the dungeon hub. It isn't even midday yet, but I'm totally done with these slimes. It's time to search for another dungeon and test out this new skill. Chapter 47. I made it back to the main D-class platform and checked out the list of dungeons. The Minotaur dungeon caught my eye. The old merchant said it would be better to challenge this one with a group as a D-class hunter. But I think it'll be fine. He doesn't know how many skills I have. They're more valuable than levels anyways. I won't even be challenging the boss either. The normal dungeon monsters will be the perfect specimens to test out my new skill. I walked through the crowded station towards the correct train platform. We need a combat magic user for a loot-based raid. We pay well. 2 tanks looking for a team, 5 silver each for an 8-hour raid. Anybody need us? Support types listen up. Buffs or healings, anything to help. XP-focused raid. Anyone interested? Some of these parties are probably good and honest hardworking people. I'm just not interested after yesterday's disaster. I'll be hunting solo again for a while. It suits me better anyways. I walked past them all without batting an eye and stood by the platform that would take me to the Minotaur dungeon. There was one other full party standing and waiting for the train next to me. It was a team of 5. I wonder if they're all going to this dungeon too? I used Inspect. LV. 161. LV. 168. LV. 172. LV. 174. LV. 265. A level 265? That's a C-class. He's a tall and strong-looking member of their party with a huge sword on his back. If I had to guess, I'd say he's about 30 years old. He must be the team leader. Maybe it's a guild raid and he's helping them level? Or they paid him to power level the 4 of them. Who knows? The other team members were standing behind their leader talking amongst themselves. One of them was a short red-haired girl. We made eye contact for a split second but were interrupted by the sound of an incoming train. Screech! The train arrived and I boarded through the closest door right behind them. The team leader took a look at me and smiled. You headed off to the Minotaur dungeon too? I didn't look directly at him. Yeah. Solo. Not interested if you're going to invite me to your group. Haha, I got it. I just haven't seen you around this dungeon yet. The Terra Guild basically runs this Minotaur dungeon. I'm leveling up our fresh D-class recruits. The Terra Guild, huh? It's not one of the big 3. They must be one of the smaller guilds in the city. Nice. Good luck in there. I'll let you guys go in first. I don't want to get in your way. He nodded and handed me a card. Sure thing. You must be at least level 200. I don't see many people challenge this dungeon solo. I assume you're here for a loot run. Yeah, something like that. I took the card and threw it in my back pocket. It's just a guild info card. That's the least of my interest right now. Screech. The train slowly came to a halt. We all took the escalator ride upwards to the dungeon portal. Well, kid. Swing by our guild if you're looking for a job. We're always looking for up-and-coming D-class hunters. My name's Hudson, by the way. Nice to meet you. I'm Jay. Nice meeting you. Best of luck in there. The team of 5 entered the dungeon and I waited outside. They all seemed nice, especially the leader. But that's not important right now. During this time, I played with my item storage skill. I opened and closed it many times in many differing sizes and distances from my body. My MP doesn't go down at all when I use my item storage. It's either such a low amount that it doesn't show on my status, or it doesn't use any MP at all. It's odd, but a good discovery. After about 20 minutes went by, I finally decided to jump through the blue spinning portal. The dungeon has a lot of pretty familiar features. It's a mountain range dungeon, but the mountains aren't too big. They look more like rocky hills. There's a lot of green grass and shrubbery along with large green trees every 10 m or so. It's not heavily wooded, so there are some plains of open grassland. I reached into my item storage and pulled out my sword while walking straight ahead deeper into the dungeon. After about 10 minutes of walking around, I came across a wide open grass patch. To my surprise, there were 3 minotaurs just standing in the middle of it. They haven't noticed me at all. They're all around 4 meters tall and look like massive buff humans, except for their heads. The monsters' bodies are dark brown, covered in hair and have rippling muscles head to toe. The minotaurs' heads are large and look like a bull. They have horns coming off each side of their head, almost a meter long. Each of these monsters is also carrying a massive silver axe with a long wooden handle. They're wearing shining silver wrist guards and a brown cloth around their waists. I used Inspect. LV. 155. LV. 157. LV. 158. These monsters are going to be a piece of cake. I've faced off against level 170s before. Come on, why is everyone so worried about these minotaurs? Of course, I'll still keep my guard up and fight strategically, but I can't see them being too much of an issue. Plus, I'm not going to try and test anything new out on my first fight. This match will be purely to see what these monsters' abilities are. I slowly walked towards them with my sword out in front of me. I'm about 50 m away now. 30 m. 20 m. The minotaur on the right turned its head and spotted me. It let out a few grunts, then turned its full body towards me. I gripped my blade tighter and kept walking forward. The beast started to charge. The other 2 monsters turned to look at me but stayed back and watched. This minotaur's aura is strong. This will be a serious battle. I ignite my sword into flames and start running towards the beast as well. Clang! Sparks fly as we clash sword and axe. It's a strong opponent, but like most of these larger monsters, I have it completely beat with my speed and agility. I jump back to face the beast again. It grunts and pushes large amounts of air from its nose. We charge towards each other again. Clang! My sword and its axe collide. After this attack, I twist around the monster's left side, continuing the momentum of my strike as flames and sparks fly through the air. The monster's eyes track me and it attempts to turn with me. The beast lifts its heavy axe up after our clash to go for another strike, but it's too late. The minotaur's torso is wide open. I focus my fire magic into the tip of my blade and land a fiery gash across the monster's abdomen up to its chest. I land and sprint backwards to admire my work. Ruyua War. The minotaur lets out a roar as the fire residue in its gash burns bright. It's in pain, but the battle is definitely not over yet. The 2 monsters behind it are watching maliciously, but haven't moved from their spots in the background. The beast on fire looks me in the eyes and readies its axe again. We charge at each other. Clang! Sparks fly high and the monster raises its axe immediately after impact this time. It learns quick. These monsters definitely have higher intelligence than I had assumed. We stood 10 m apart. I'm starting to break into a sweat. It's not a life-threatening battle at all, but this monster is putting up a good fight. We charge at each other once again. I decide to completely dodge the axe's swing and weave around the minotaur. It wasn't expecting this. I have a perfect opening. I plant my right foot and make a full U-turn facing the monster's back. It's turning as well, but again, too slow. Another hit. I make a fiery gash across the monster's back from shoulder to hip. It cries out in pain, but still doesn't drop to the floor. I can see why these guys would be a problem if they were to attack a lower-level hunter in a group. Ru-wu-wawa-warer. The minotaur lets out a mighty roar. It's definitely very injured now, one more good hit and it's done for. The only downside is I really pissed it off. The beast turned to me with fire residue burning intensely on its front and backside. The two minotaurs that were staying out of the fight previously turned towards me as well. I gripped my sword tighter and grinned as the three monsters started their charge straight at me. Chapter 48. I stood in front of three charging minotaurs with my burning blade and prepared for an attack. The monster up front is the most wounded. It's about 30 m ahead of the other two. The smartest thing to do right now would be to take it out first. I charged in at the wounded beast and let my flames burn bright, trailing behind me on the ground. I have a pretty good feel on these monsters' abilities. They're tough and crafty with their weapons, but with my magic gear, recent battle experience, and arsenal of abilities, they're no match. It's time to test a few of my new skills out. As the minotaur up front approached, I came up with the perfect plan. It raised its axe and I raised my sword to match it. As the beast let out a battle cry and brought its axe down towards me, I lifted my left arm in the air to shield myself. It's a gamble, but I'm fairly sure this will work out in my favor. Body hardening. I concentrated my body hardening skill to make layer around my arm. Instantly, hard black crystals started forming all over the areas I was visualizing. Clang! The massive axe came down on my arm and it bounced off like it was hitting a sword. Some crystal fragmented, but the attack didn't make contact with my physical body. This gave me enough time to slip under the monster in its confusion and let out a fiery uppercut with my sword. A final clean hit. The beast fell to the floor with a grunt and a whimper covered in a blanket of flames. Level up. 1 down, 2 to go. I looked up to see the two minotaurs in hot pursuit. They seemed angry that I defeated their friend. I got into a battle stance and checked my status. 450/795 MP remaining. The total decline is not bad, but definitely not efficient enough for my liking. It's about time I try out my new plunderer skill. There are two beasts running at me this time. It'll be a bit harder than my first fight. I ignited my blade into flames and grinned. My blood is rushing. These battles make me feel alive. I decided to run towards the one to my right. It raised its axe and I raised my arm while hardening and bracing for impact. Clang! Took the bait. I swerved around the right side and slashed the beast's torso. While making contact with my blade, I concentrated on my skill to take in mana. I repeated plunder over and over in my head as I cut deep into the minotaur. I could feel my MP raising for a split second while my blade was touching the monster. The moment my blade left its flesh, the flow of mana stopped instantly. The beast let out grunts as it turned to face me again. His partner in battle was close by as well. I checked my MP. It read out 585/795. I grinned ear to ear. Even while using swordsmanship, fire magic, and body hardening, my MP went up after that exchange. The minotaur came back for more. Clang! I blocked the beast again with my left arm and landed a devastating fiery attack with my right while taking an MP. The second monster followed close behind and I blocked its attack with my body hardening and managed to counter it easily as well. I've completely figured out their fighting style. They may be pretty strong and able to take a lot of hits, but this battle is basically already over. It's just going to take time. After a few more charges, I blocked all of their axe hits, absorbed MP basically up to full, and brought them both to their knees. All three minotaur I encountered on this plane have been defeated and reduced to flaming piles of ash. Level up. Level up. Name J Soju. Level 160. HP 805/805.
MP 805/805.
Strength 385 plus 125. Speed 458. Agility 478. Defense 342 plus 137. Mental strength 385 plus 77. Skills: absorption, swordsmanship, combat magic, fire summoning, inspect, special grade, enemy detection, body hardening, Special Grade, Self-Regeneration, Spatial Magic, Item Storage, Plunder, Items Equipped, Golden Wolf Ring, plus 20% Mental Strength, Cyclops Eye Pendant, plus 40% Defense, Stainless Steel Sword, plus 125 Strength. Level 160, nice. Still a long way to go until 250. I stood around for a few minutes and collected the mana that each of the disappearing minotaurs dropped and placed them in my item storage. I continued walking further into the dungeon. Sounds weird to say, but this is a beautiful dungeon. The blue sky and the warm air make me feel at peace. The post-fight adrenaline also gives me a nice high to ride while I search for my next opponents. I walked through a few empty fields looking for more monsters to fight. They traveled in groups, so the spawn rate must be much farther apart or something. I've been walking for 20 minutes and haven't found a single sign of any new minotaurs. There was a large tree in the middle of one of the large plains I came across. I sat up against it and took a little break to admire the blue sky for a bit. Like clockwork, the moment I got comfortable I sensed a presence nearby. Finally, some more monsters. I grinned and stood up with my sword ready. There's a clump of trees in the distance. It's a small forest area. The leaves started shaking, so I activated my enemy detection and inspect skills. 3 of them again, and it looks like one of them is going to be trouble. Great. LV 156, LV 157, LV 191. 3 large minotaurs came out from the tree line. The strongest stood up front, and the 2 lower levels followed close behind. They all looked exactly the same. Without my inspect skill, I could never have seen a difference. This is what the old merchant meant when he said their levels may vary. Interesting. The leader of the monsters grunted and motioned its axe towards me while slowing its strides. The other 2 grunted back and charged ahead of it straight at me. They just communicated an attack. I've never seen monsters with intelligence like this before. It's a good thing just the 2 of them are up first. I'll have to take these weaker ones out, then focus on the leader. They charged towards me grunting while raising their axes. I surrounded my sword in a coat of flames and ran towards them as well. They both brought their axes down at the same time. It raised my left arm in a bent fashion while hardening it to make a shield for my usual attack. Clang! Both axes came down at once and were repealed without a problem. I managed to get underneath both of them to land a double hit on their abdomens while they were distracted by their axes' recoil. They burst out in roars as I drained enough MP to recover and leave a good amount of fire residue on them. I ran past with a satisfied grin on my face. 2 at a time, not bad. Roar. To my surprise, the leader was towering over me with its axe in full swing. I didn't even see it coming. This monster hid behind its subordinates and launched a surprise attack knowing I'd make it past these 2. I underestimated it. At the last second, I put my arm up again to harden it and block the attack. My sword was pointed at the floor on the opposite side of my body. I didn't have the time or positioning to counter. Argh! Blood splashed up into the air as I felt my arm breaking under the pressure of this monster's axe. My body hardening worked for a moment, but was shattered along with my arm in the next. Black crystals flew everywhere as my hardening was completely destroyed. I guess there is a limit to how much this skill can defend against. The beast followed through and let its axe smash into the ground. Luckily, I was able to somewhat move my arm out of the way and save it from being sliced off. I jumped back and regenerated my broken limb while getting as much distance as I could from the vicious beast. I checked my status. It read 615/805 HP, 705/805 MP. Interesting. My physical body is repaired with self-regeneration, but I feel much more tired. The attacks from an opponent will affect my HP stat no matter what. When I regenerate, it's healing my physical wound and converting the damage to more overall fatigue. This skill is not full healing magic. It's just accelerated physical recovery with a trade-off. I'll have to keep this in mind. I turned to see the 2 flaming monsters charging at me while the leader followed close behind. Our battle is far from over. Chapter 49. The injured flaming minotaurs came charging at me in a fit of rage. These two aren't the problem though. I can dodge their attacks all day and kill them whenever I please. Their leader is the real issue. I haven't gauged its full strength yet, but it's definitely higher than mine. My best course of action is to take these two out first. I have a few healing potions, I can handle another hit or two. I'll use the same strategy as before. We all charged in towards each other. I blocked the two axe hits with my hardened arm and landed another double strike on the two weaker monsters while absorbing some MP in the process. The leader was close behind and attacked immediately just like before. I braced myself and tried to concentrate even more, hardening on my arm to see if I could block the attack if I had full focus. The leader's large axe came down and made contact with my ultra-hardened arm. Ag, bad idea. The second it made impact, I heard a crack and saw black crystal fragments fly out in all directions while a sharp pain traveled through my arm and into my shoulder. It worked a little bit, but my arm is definitely still fractured in multiple places. I need to get better positioning and try blocking with my sword next time if I get the chance. I jumped back and distanced myself to check my stats and regenerate. It read 485/805 HP and 680/805 MP. Not bad. Just one more time should open things up. I charged back in and did a picture-perfect attack. The two front minotaurs fell to the ground in a pool of their own blood and my flames. 3 good attacks seems to be just enough for me to defeat normal monsters here. Level up. I blocked another attack while sacrificing my hardened arm one last time before running back about 20 to recuperate and plan for the actual battle at hand here. My stats read out 355/810 HP, 685/810 MP. As the lone leader eyed me down, I took the time to chug an HP potion back up to full health. I could have waited a bit longer, but it's a common-sense safety precaution here. We both charged forward. I ignited my blade in fire and the beast raised its axe. Clang! We met weapons with a clash of flames, sparks, and grunts from both sides. In the end, I was totally overpowered. The monster's axe came crushing down. I held my own in the test of strength for a few milliseconds, but in the end it was a one-sided matchup. The Minotaur's axe completely trumped my sword's power, and it came crashing down towards me with little resistance. I was forced to retreat and jump backwards. This feels like some of my old battles. I haven't faced a truly superior opponent in a while. I grinned and stared down the beast as it grunted and started charging towards me again. I'll have to use my speed to defeat this one. Brute strength isn't gonna cut it. I ran forward with my sword ablaze. The monster swung its axe downward and I dodged without attempting to counter it at all. With a swift fiery strike, I sliced open its leg as I ran by. This is a pretty nostalgic feeling. It's almost like I'm fighting that wolf boss from my hometown again. Good times. I smirked and faced the beast once more. We charged forward and I dodged to the opposite side to land a hit on its other leg. The beast cried out. This wasn't much damage to a monster like this, but it was definitely getting very annoyed. I continued my assault, switching up my movements and styles to land safe, cheap hits every time. It's a pretty boring way to fight, but fighting this thing head-on would not be the smart thing to do. I have a very clear speed and agility advantage. There's no point in not using this to my full capacity. Every time I made a slice in the monster's legs, I absorbed a small amount of MP. It's much harder to drain than its weaker counterparts. The monster's level must have something to do with it. An opponent with a much higher experience level takes longer to suck MP from. Another good thing to note. I have to leave a large amount of fire residue in every attack I land. I'd be out of MP fast if I didn't have this new skill. After around 10 attacks, the Minotaur became visibly slower. I started aiming for its abdomen, then upper chest, and lastly the back of its neck. It took a total of 16 hits before I pierced my fiery blade into its head and watched the beast fall to the ground. Level up, level up, level up, level up, level up, level up. Name J Soju. Level 167. HP 840/840. MP 705/840. Strength, 401, plus 125. Speed, 478. Agility, 499. Defense, 357, plus 143. Mental strength, 401, plus 80. Skills, absorption, swordsmanship, combat magic, fire summoning, inspect, special grade, enemy detection, body hardening, special grade, self-regeneration, spatial magic, item storage, plunder, items equipped, golden wolf ring, plus 20% mental strength, cyclops eye pendant, plus 40% defense, stainless steel sword, plus 125 strength. Nice, 6 levels from the leader and 1 from the 2 subordinates. It relied too heavily on the 2 weaker fighters. When I had a speed advantage and we were all alone, the only thing that Beast could do was lay down and die. Unfortunate fate. I've definitely got a handle on this dungeon. That was a level 191. It's probably one of the highest rated I'll find here, and it was taken out with ease. With a satisfied grin on my face, I walked over to the 2 weaker minotaurs that burned to ash and put their mana crystals in my item storage. As I turned around to collect the leader's mana, my eyes lit up. Looks like it's my lucky day. After only 6 monsters, I already got an item drop. The huge axe sat on the ground next to a large mana crystal. I picked each of them up to place in my item storage. I started walking back in the direction of the dungeon start point. I'm not leaving yet. I'd just rather be nearby for when I decide to leave and not wander too far off into the dungeon. It's not like I'll be fighting the boss today. On my way back, I came across a pair of minotaurs level 157 and 154. They were very easy opponents. With my recent level increases, I was able to take them down in 2 hits each. I didn't level up, but collected 2 mana crystals. As I strolled around the dungeon, I got to thinking about what my purpose here in the city really is. After these recent events, I have a clear idea of what I have to do. The C-class exams are in less than 3 weeks. I need to get really serious. This dungeon is the perfect training ground for my preparation. I'll power level here and make a ton of money from the loot drops to buy some new higher grade gear. I spent the next 4 hours roaming around the dungeon's start point. This seemed to be the perfect spot for now. I came across 6 more groups of Minotaur. The first was an easy group of 3. They consisted of a level 157, 158, and 162. They dropped 3 mana stones. I didn't level up. The second group was a bit more of a challenge. There was a leader at level 183 and 2 underlings at level 155 and 157. It was a similar battle to the previous trio with a leader. Long but not that difficult. They only dropped mana as well. I gained 3 levels from this fight. The third and fourth groups were fairly similar to the first. All of them were between level 155 and 165. Good mana but no more levels. After these 2 fights, I got a bit antsy and decided to venture a bit deeper into the dungeon again. Apparently, the further I traveled in, the stronger the monsters are. I guess it makes sense. My 5th fight was with 2 strong minotaurs. They were level 177 and 179. I had to use my bobbing and weaving tactics to the extreme. My body hardening worked well enough, but hits still hurt and dealt a tiny bit of damage. All in all, it was a manageable fight. I gained 2 levels and collected only mana as loot. After this fight, I was getting a bit tired and hungry. It was time to pack it in. I trekked back to the dungeon start point and faced off against a final group of 3 that weren't much of a challenge. They were between level 155 and 165. All 3 dropped large mana stones, and one of them dropped their axe as well. I didn't level up in this battle, but couldn't have asked for a better parting gift. As I stepped out of the blue portal back into the dungeon hub transit area, I smirked to myself. That was a good first day of grinding to get my feet wet. I'm level 172 now. Tomorrow I'll venture much deeper into this Minotaur dungeon. Chapter 50. I boarded the escalator down to the train station and made my way back to the main dungeon hub. It's really crowded this time of day. Most hunters are finishing up their raids and heading off to the market to sell all kinds of loot. I walked outside and started to head towards the market center as well. I am one of those hunters after all. Took me about 10 minutes to make my way over. I walked pretty quickly. "Hey kid. Welcome back." The merchant smiled and looked me in the eyes curiously. "Which dungeon did you end up going to?" "Any of the ones I recommended." "A couple of them, actually. The Minotaur dungeon is pretty cool." He eyed me closer while narrowing his stare. "You said you hunt solo though, right?" "Yeah, I can handle it. Don't worry about me, old man." With a grin, I emptied my mana onto the table. It's almost 3 dozen crystals. The merchant raised an eyebrow and stared, placing all of them on the measuring plate. "Looks like you can handle yourself pretty well after all. Not bad." The scale read out 3881.66 mu in big black text. I'll give you dash." "Wait, hold on, I have more." I pulled out the 2 large axes and the merchant's eyes lit up. "Let me take a look at those." I handed him the axes and he examined them closely. A 150 and a 200 strength boost axe. Not bad at all. Just like last time you sold me gear. I told you it'd be a better price at auction, but I'm still happy to buy these from you today. Yeah, I'm looking to get rid of them quick. Still, I hope you give me a decent price. I can do 30 for the 150 strength axe and 45 for the 200. You could easily get double in auction, but that's my price here. They are low prices, but I understand how the business works. Going to the auction would take up a full day potentially. It's really not worth my time right now. How about 120 silver for the mana and the axes all together? He looked over everything and nodded slowly. Yeah, that works. You want it in all silver. I thought to myself for a moment. 100 silver is equal to 1 gold. I've never had a gold coin before. Why not? It'll be easier to store anyways. 1 gold, 20 silver. The merchant nodded and counted out my coins. I took them and placed the silver in my item storage as the old man took the mana and axes to the back of his shop. He did a small double take the moment I opened up my storage skill but didn't say a word. I didn't think much of it either. I was a bit distracted. The gold coin in my hand glimmered in the setting sun. My eyes were locked on it. I flipped it around in my fingers with a large grin on my face from ear to ear. With a wave goodbye, I left the market and got a nice big meal at a family restaurant and strolled down the street with a full belly. I stopped by a convenience store to purchase one of the latest editions of a comic book I enjoy reading about hunters and heroes. The sun had completely set now. After walking all the way back to the inn, I was greeted by the attendant at front desk before making my way up to my room. I took my usual long hot shower and went straight into bed. Today wore me out, but it also has me excited for the future. Once I got comfortable under the covers, I opened up the comic and started reading. I'm starting to feel more and more like one of these characters I read about, but there's one difference between me and them. They all have some kind of deep trauma or mission to save the world that really drives them. Me? I just want to get stronger. Every new adventure I go on makes me want to dive even deeper into the dungeons. I'm starting to get more and more hooked on the thrill of making it out of dangerous situations by the skin of my teeth. Maybe that's just what they call an adrenaline junkie? Every intense battle gives me a rush that pushes me to progress further every time. I have my eyes set on immediate goals, and I'll do anything to get there. I know my short-term ambitions could be my downfall. The risks of my accelerated growth may not outweigh the rewards, but this is what I have to do while I still can. I've never felt more alive in my whole life. I guess it's a bit of a selfish reason to get stronger, but who cares? It's not like anyone is watching. I'm living for myself. This is what I enjoy doing every day. I will become stronger. With an open comic magazine over my face, I fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. The next morning, I woke up refreshed and ready to dive back into the dungeons. I hopped out of bed and went downstairs. The innkeeper smiled at me on the way out. Off hunting. I nodded and reached for the door. Yep. Have a good day. You know, kid, there was a pretty big C-class dungeon break last night. It might be the beginning of a search. Just be careful out there. All right, got it. Thanks. I left the inn not thinking much of his comment. Dungeon breaks happen all the time in the city, right? It's normal. After grabbing a small breakfast, I made my way towards the dungeon hub. It was crowded this morning like usual all the way down to the main D-class platform. To my surprise, I saw a team from the Terra Guild waiting for a train. It looked like there were some different members, but there was one face I recognized for sure. Their leader Hudson saw me and waved at me. I peeked at the dungeon list and sure enough, that was the train for the Minotaur dungeon. He spoke up as I walked over. Hey, looks like we meet again. This is my morning shift. You off loot farming today? I stood there with my arms crossed waiting for the train. Yeah, I'm in the city for a little while. This dungeon seems to be perfect for me. Screech. The train pulled up and we boarded. Hudson leaned up against the inside wall and looked at me. You know, there's rumors we might get hit by a surge soon. This dungeon is very stable, so I doubt anything will happen. Just be careful about farming in any of the new dungeons until we get more news on the situation. Joining a party is probably a safer move as well. I appreciate the warning, but I hunt solo. All right, I'm just looking out for a fellow hunter. That's all. I raised an eyebrow. I wasn't fully listening to what he was saying. I assumed it was just small talk or guild recruitment nonsense. He mentioned a surge too, just like the innkeeper did earlier. Hey, one other thing. This surge? What is it anyways? He looked at me with a smirk. The underlings in his party looked at me with a concerned look. What? Is it bad that I don't know? Hudson replied. You really haven't heard about it at all? There's been a few surges lately, about 3 big ones this year. The news is always trying to predict the next one, haha. Okay, but what exactly is it? Why is it happening in the first place? Well, we don't know exactly. It seems to be a large concentration of magic that surges through all the dungeons in the area. For a few days, some of the dungeons will start to break randomly. Elite teams from the Hunters Association and some large guilds have been put on guard to make sure the city and its civilians are protected. A few months ago, during the last surge, we had a high-level C-class dungeon break. It breached the pre-built confinement and leaked some pretty large monsters into the capital. Luckily, the Viridian Guild had a team nearby. They cleared it up hastily once they got to the scene. I nodded as I looked out the train window watching the cement walls pass by. Interesting. You said this dungeon is very stable, though? Hudson nodded. Yeah, this is one of the oldest D-class dungeons in the area. It gets a lot of raiding traffic. The more magic items and mana that are taken out of the dungeon, the more stable it becomes. Even if the surge gets bad, the worst it'll do is spawn in a few mutants at most. That's my professional opinion, at least. Interesting. This is good insight. Thanks a lot. No prob, just helping out. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but come by our guild anytime. Sure. Maybe I will. Hudson doesn't seem like a bad guy at all. Maybe I actually will stop by and check the place out once I finish farming this week. The train came to a stop and a lot of other teams got off at the Minotaur dungeon platform. Seems like it's pretty common knowledge that this is one of the safer dungeons to dive into today. I can't wait to get started. Chapter 51. I let the crowd of hunters go into the dungeon first. I'll take my time and venture a bit deeper today to find some harder opponents. I'm probably not ready for the boss yet. It'll take a few days before I can handle that solo. There's a large sense of tension from the other parties. This whole dungeon surge thing is a pretty big deal. Once it was my turn to enter, I pulled out my sword and jumped through the glowing blue portal. I wandered around the Minotaur dungeon without any problems. The monsters became stronger and stronger as the day went on. In 6 hours, I faced off against 7 groups in total. There were a few other teams in the dungeon, so whenever I got nearby, I turned the other way to keep my distance. It was a little annoying at first, but overall it didn't really matter. The first 3 groups I fought were pretty easy. They were all level 155 to 165. It was just mana drops, no level gains at all. The next 2 groups were a bit harder. They were both led by a boss with a pretty high level. One was LV 188, the other was LV 191. The LV 188 dropped an axe, the other 5 minotaurs dropped only mana. I gained 4 levels from these battles. It's much easier to level grind now that I can use my opponent's MP. I'm getting hit while blocking occasionally, but with every increasing level the damage is becoming less and less. The next group I fought had a surprising twist. Consisted of 4 total minotaurs. Their levels were 176, 177, 180, and 182. At first the monsters actually gave me a run for my money. They attacked in charges of 2 and had similar strength to my own. My only advantage was speed. I dragged the battle out for a long time while hardening for defense and absorbing their MP, simultaneously landing cheap shots whenever I could. After this battle I had to drink an HP potion to recover fully. The more I fight in this dungeon, the more I understand why guilds love to come here. These beasts are good fighters, but they don't have any mind-blowing moves. As long as a team has proper gear and teamwork, power leveling is a breeze. After this battle I gained 3 more levels and collected for huge mana crystals. My final group was even more of a challenge. It was a group of 2 minotaur. One was a level 161 and the other stood at a staggering level 202. The lower level monster was defeated very quickly at the beginning of the fight. The level 202 was definitely a challenge though. It was very strong and very fast. My small frame and agility were my only upside when it came to basic stats. I had to play it very safe and slowly chip away at the beast while blocking its attacks with a hardened left arm. It chipped me down to about half of my HP before the battle was over. Both of these monsters just dropped mana crystals, no extra loot. I gained 3 levels from this battle. After this fight I took a small break to sit by a tree and check my status. Status open. Name J Soju. Level 182. HP 465/915. MP 880/915. Strength 437 plus 125. Speed 521. Agility 544. Defense 389 plus 156. Mental strength 437 plus 87. Skills: absorption, swordsmanship, combat magic, fire summoning, inspect, special grade, enemy detection, body hardening, special grade, self-regeneration, spatial magic, item storage, plunder, items equipped, golden wolf ring, plus 20% mental strength, cyclops eye pendant, plus 40% defense, stainless steel sword, plus 125 strength. After a quick rest, I got up with a grin on my face and started heading back to the dungeon entrance. I need to stock up on HP portions. I didn't realize how tough some of these higher level minotaurs are. Plus, a bite to eat wouldn't hurt. I'll come back right after and continue this level grinding. It took about an hour, but I made it back to the floating blue portal and left the dungeon. I heard one team fighting a nearby group of monsters on the way back but didn't encounter any myself. I exited the dungeon and took the train back to the main hub. When I made it up to the surface I could see a pretty big commotion going on by the E-class escalator. There were 2 extra guards in front preventing people from passing. One of them was speaking to a group. I couldn't help but listen in. "We're sorry to delay all of your hunting. There's been 2 large E-class breaks. It shouldn't be much of a problem. The bosses will be cleared soon. We have temporarily raised the entrance standard to a D-class minimum for 1 hour. Please bear with us. This is for your safety." I raised an eyebrow. Couple E-class dungeon breaks, huh? Maybe it wouldn't hurt if I checked it out. I took out my ID and showed the guard while asking him a question. "Hey, which dungeons were the ones that had a break?" He nodded to let me pass. "There's a pretty bad goblin dungeon break. It's lower level and should be cleared within the hour. The other seems to be a rat dungeon. It should be cleared much sooner. We just got news to shut off the area to newbies just in case." "All right, understood." I headed down to the E-class platform to check things out. They have a goblin dungeon here too. I wonder what it's like. The rat dungeon sounds disgusting. I don't mind missing out on that. The only break I've ever seen was that previous Cyclops dungeon break, and I was very underprepared. This one should be fairly easy. Some rare loot may drop if I have enough time to farm. It looks like there's a lot of people with the same idea as me. As I got down to the platform, it was pretty chaotic. I read the info board, and sure enough, the train with all the parties surrounding it was the Goblin Dungeon. I could see about 20 other hunters in 6 separate groups ranging from 2 to 5 members. It looks like I'm the only solo hunter here. We all boarded the train and were off shortly after. It was a quick ride, no more than 3 minutes. Everyone on the train was getting anxious. They were either scared of what was in that dungeon or were just itching to fight. I, for one, was itching to fight. Once the stop arrived, we all piled out and went up the escalator to be met with a floating red portal. I could feel the dense magic in the air. This is definitely a dungeon break. I let a few people jump through first, but I followed soon after. We all dispersed once entering. It's actually pretty similar to the old goblin dungeon I used to hunt at. That brings back memories. There's thick tall grass everywhere and occasional trees. It's basically an open plain dungeon. No more than 2 minutes in, I already encountered a monster. It was just a goblin I used inspect. LV 13. I chuckled a little and cut it in half with a lazy swing of my sword. It is definitely stronger than your average goblin, but at this level I can't tell the difference. I walked further into the dungeon. A few more goblins ran at me, but they were defeated in seconds. I didn't even bother to collect the mana. After 10 minutes or so, I was starting to get a bit discouraged. Did I really come down here for this? I was about to turn back, but then I heard a familiar roar. I used enemy detection and inspect. LV 41. Something bigger is here.
I'm intrigued.
I ran towards it with my sword ready. To my surprise, it was a mutant hobgoblin. This is a pretty bad break. I didn't even know these guys could spawn outside the boss room. The monster charged towards me with its sword pointed straight ahead while grunting and hissing. It was an easy kill. I defeated it in seconds. This gave me hope, though. There might be more unusual spawns around here. The air started getting denser and denser. This is a good sign. The magic is getting more concentrated. I kept using enemy detection and inspect with a very wide range to look for mutants. LV 14, LV 31, LV 11, LV 42, LV 38. There were a variety of goblins and hobgoblins all over the place the further I went inside. I ran into a few other hunters, but it was nothing more than a short head nod and us running off in opposite directions. LV 17, LV 44, LV 19, LV 46, LV 51. The levels were slowly increasing more and more. I kept walking further in towards the dense pocket of magic. LV 124. It's 100 m away. Now this is what I was looking for. The air is heavy and my sword is drawn. There's a calm silence as I walk slowly towards my future opponent. 50 m. I'm getting closer. Soon it'll be within range. There's a small patch of trees up ahead. It must be in there. 20 m. My face lit up when I saw the creature pop out of the tree line. It's an old-looking goblin dressed in a dark cloak and a leather hat. The monster is carrying a long wooden staff and has a large brown satchel that looks full to the brim. It let off a faint gray glow. It must be a magic user. This is my first time coming face to face with a shaman. I can barely hold in my excitement as I tighten the grip on my sword and get ready to fight. Chapter 52. The shaman looked me up and down with bloodshot eyes. There's a peculiar magic aura surrounding it. I stared it down as well with my sword pointed straight ahead. I'm sure I could defeat this monster in seconds if I went all out, but I want to see what it can do. I've only read about shamans in comics. This is the first one I've actually seen out in a dungeon. The monster raised its staff and let out a grunt. Its leather pouch opened up and an assortment of silver orbs came flying out. They were all moving in a circle around the monster. I couldn't quite make out what they were. If I had to guess, they looked like small balls of metal, rocks, or maybe crystals. Again, I've never seen anything like this. The shaman hissed and pointed its staff right at me. Two of the floating orbs moved out of formation and came rocketing my way. Clang! I blocked them with my sword without much of a problem. The objects were quick. The two that hit my sword were circular metal balls. If I was closer to this shaman's level, these orbs would be deadly. I could feel the power behind each of its attacks. It's very strong for a level 124. The monster stared at me while backing up and raised its staff again. 4 of the orbs came hurtling towards me. Clang! I easy blocked all of the projectiles again. The shaman shrieked and turned. Oh, you're not getting away that easy. It was running away from me. What a joke. Some monster this is. I ignited my sword into flames and followed it into the small cluster of trees. Thud. HHH what to dash. As I followed the monster, I was struck in the center of my back with one of those metal orbs. It didn't do any serious damage, but it definitely didn't feel good. I turned to see half a dozen orbs floating behind me while I chased the shaman into the woods. It's a crafty little monster. It knows it can't beat me straight on, so it's going to do what it can to survive. I fought off most of the metal orbs, but they kept coming back no matter how many times I hit them. My back is getting bruised up. I wonder what kind of magic this shaman is using? Whatever it is, this would be a good skill to have. I could see the monster right in front of me, less than 10 m away, but it keeps diving behind trees and scurrying around while I defend myself from its floating orbs. I'm getting a bit frustrated. It keeps twisting and turning through this small patch of forest because it knows the layout like the back of its hand. Unlike me, this is the first time I've seen any of this scenery. The monster is hissing and making sounds similar to laughter. I think it's enjoying this. I can see the end of the tree patch in sight. It looks like the shaman is heading out soon. Finally, a fight in a wide open field will be much easier for me. As we neared the edge of the trees, I came within 3 m of the slimy little creature. I was seconds away from slicing it to pieces. Then, I felt my footing give out. My vision went blurry and I felt weightless for a moment. Thudded. I hit the ground moments later and heard faint footsteps and hissing moving away from me. It's dark in here. Did I really fall for the oldest trick in the book? The shaman led me straight into a pitfall and I fell for it. There are a few large wooden spikes at the bottom, but they were poorly constructed. I broke most of them with the impact of my fall. I'm bleeding a little, but it's nothing serious. I looked up to see the bright blue sky and proceeded to use the wooden spikes to climb out of the trap like a makeshift ladder. No more playing around. Come on out. I used my enemy detection and located it 100 m ahead of me. This coward really put me in a hole and made a run for it. I sprinted out of the trees with my blade on fire and a smirk across my face. It's wide open in the field and running quickly even deeper into the dungeon. I followed the monster in a straight line, closing the distance as fast as I could. Its metal orbs were nowhere in sight. I could focus on running at full speed. Less than 30 seconds later, we were face to face again. The monster hissed and summoned its orbs from the pouch. Without hesitation, I went in for a strike. I'm not letting this opportunity pass again. I swung my fiery blade at the shaman's neck while being pelted by its orbs. I could feel a few make contact, breaking a few of my ribs, but I had my eye on the prize. Shing! Thud! I sliced through the shaman's neck like butter and the battle was over just like that. I looked down to see my favorite floating blue letters. Use absorption. Skill, telekinesis. Yes. No. With a grin I chose yes and used self-regeneration to heal my minor injuries. The body of the shaman started to disappear pretty quickly, and to my surprise it didn't only drop mana. There was a small silver key next to the crystal on the ground. I picked the loot up and examined the key for a moment before throwing them both in my item storage. I guess I'll have to ask around. I've never seen anything like this for an item drop before. I think I've had enough fun here. It's about time I head back. Somebody is bound to beat the boss soon anyways. I headed back towards the dungeon start point, but sure enough a team beat the boss before I could make it back. I came just in time. 10 more minutes and I would have missed my chance to find that shaman. A white light appeared. It felt odd not being in a boss room and seeing this light. Everyone in the dungeon was transported back into that small room at the top of the escalator. It was very crowded. There were easily 40 people crammed into this tight space. They all seemed to be beginner D-class hunters and some E-class that managed to get in before they closed off the platform. I didn't talk to anyone. I just minded my own business and tried to sift through the crowd towards the escalator. Hey, it's Jay Wright. I turned my head. Who knows my name in this city? Hi, who are you? Standing in front of me was a short red-haired girl with a black combat suit on, similar to the ones I saw at the Hunters Association, but definitely not exactly same. She smiled and reached out her hand. The name's Nessa. I saw you taking with my Captain Hunson yesterday. Nice to formally meet you. Really? I just saw him this morning. Yeah, it's my day off. Hunson trains a lot of us D-class at the Terra Guild. I'm pretty new to the city. They let me join the day I asked. I took a closer look at Nessa. She was on the shorter side, maybe 160 centimeters. Bright orange/red hair, and bright blue eyes with light freckles on her cheeks. If I had to guess, she was no more than 19 years old. A D-class and new to the city, huh? She must be a pretty good fighter, and have some kind of unique or useful combat skill. I boarded the escalator and continued the small talk as she followed. What are you doing at an E-class break? She smiled. Well, it's my first time hearing about one of these so-called surges. I wanted to see what they were all about for myself. I nodded. Yup, me too. Disappointing, huh? I guess. It was interesting. It was actually not disappointing at all. It couldn't have gone any better for me. I decided not to say anything about the rare monster I faced, though. It's just becoming a habit to keep my experiences to myself. There's no point in keeping secrets, it's just more simple if I do. Well, I'm going out on a raid with my team tomorrow to the Minotaur dungeon again. Maybe I'll see you there. Maybe. I'll be farming there tomorrow as well, but I really only hunt solo. She pouted a bit, but I don't think she was actually upset. I can't help but to stare a bit. She's such a pretty girl. It's literally been one day since the last girl I trusted tried to kill me. Am I really going to fall for these charms again? The train came and we rode it back to the main hub. When we walked upstairs, there seemed to be a big commotion going on by the D-class escalator. There was a guard speaking up. Only parties of 3 and above or C-class hunters are allowed down to the D-class dungeon platform for the next hour. There's been a large break in the Kobold dungeon. This is for your own safety. Looks like there's another large break. Think I'll pack it in for today, though. I've had a good day of hunting. I turned to Nessa. I'm done for the day. It was a pleasure meeting you. Maybe I'll see you out hunting again one of these days. She smiled at me. Like I said before, I'm in the morning slot tomorrow. The whole team will be here right when the sun comes up. I waved as I turned to leave. All right, maybe I'll see ya. I'm just trying to be polite. I hope I didn't come off as rude. Yes, I wouldn't mind seeing her again, but meeting a whole new team of hunters isn't on my immediate to-do list. I walked off into the city as the sun set, heading towards the market to sell my loot. Chapter 53. I arrived to the market less than 20 minutes later and waved to the old merchant. Hey kid, how are you today? Great. I took my axe and mana out of my item storage to place them on counter between us. You know, that's a neat skill. I don't think you were using it when we first met. But I gotta say, item storage must be useful. I froze in place. How could I be so careless? I've been using my item storage skill in front of the merchant this whole time like it's not a big deal. Anyone could have seen me using it here. I looked around cautiously. Not that it would matter. The damage is already done. Thanks, yeah. It's a good thing to have. Just, could you keep it between us? I don't use this skill often. The merchant could sense the tension in my voice and nodded slowly. Sure. I won't pry. He took my mana and placed them on the measuring scale. The big black numbers read out 3976.43 mu. He took a look at the axe and smirked. This is a 175 strength boost axe. Nice. I can do 80 silver for the whole haul. I thought to myself for a moment. How about 40 silver, an item box, and 2 D-class HP potions? The old man eyed me for a moment, then started shuffling through a cabinet. Sure, work for me. He started counting out my silver and placed a small magic pouch with 2 HP potions on the counter. Oh, one other thing. I pulled out the silver key and handed it to the merchant. His eyes lit up. Where'd you get this? I've only seen a handful of shaman keys in my lifetime. I got it from a dungeon break today. How much is it worth? Oh, good find. I'm sure you could get a few gold at auction for a key like this. Really? So, what's it do? I'm not too sure. I've heard rumors about certain keys being used in the Capital Labyrinth, but I've never been there myself. If you're looking to sell it, I can give you an address for a good auction house. Here. The old man scribbled something down on a small piece of paper and handed it to me. I took it and threw it in my item storage along with the key. It sounds enticing, but I'm not really interested in an auction right now. I'd rather capitalize on these increased dungeon breaks while I still can. Thanks. Appreciate it. Hey, how long do these surges tend to last anyways? I remembered the innkeeper telling me about them, but I wasn't paying much attention to him when he was explaining. The last one we had lasted just a few days. I'm sure it'll be over by the end of this weekend. I nodded and took the rest of my new items and silver off the table. The silver and potions were placed in my item storage, but I tied the item box around my waist. The old man made a great observation. If I'm going to be using my item storage skill, I should at least be a bit stealthier about it. I'll keep some items in this magic pouch for when I'm out in public. Got it. Thanks again. Pleasure doing business with you. Of course, stay safe, kid. With a wave, I left the market and grabbed a quick meal before heading back to the inn. I was greeted by the attendant and quickly made my way upstairs. After my signature hot shower, I fell asleep in bed almost immediately. The next morning, I woke up full of energy. Once I hopped out of bed and got dressed, I made sure to put my sword and a handful of coins and potions into the new item box I purchased yesterday. Just in case I see anyone out hunting today, it's better that I use this as cover for my item storage skill. After making my way downstairs, I was greeted by the innkeeper in the lobby. Another day of hunting? I nodded and smiled. Yup. It seems like today will be the peak of the surge. There were 2 C-class breaks last night. Be careful out there, young man. Of course, thanks for looking out for me. I'll be okay. I walked out the door with a grin across my face and grabbed a bite to eat before making my way towards the dungeon hub. There's a huge crowd today, especially around the E-class line. The 2 guards in front of it are talking to the groups of passing hunters. Now that I get a closer look, there's at least 2 guards at every station entrance now. Is the surge that bad today? Looks like they are tightening security. I got in line for the D-class dungeons and crossed my arms waiting patiently. Time passed and the line moved along slowly until I came face to face with the 2 guards. One of them spoke up. Hunter's license. I handed the man my ID and he started shaking his head. Can't let you in today, sorry. I looked at him with confusion. WY? What do you mean? All dungeons are only open to parties of 3 or more. The only exception is if you're 1 rank above the dungeon minimum. In this case, you'll need to be C-class minimum to enter the D-class platform if you're hunting solo today. It's for your safety. I assure you, it will be back to normal within a day or 2. I'm going to have to ask you to step out of line. The E-class dungeons are open for you today if you'd like. Okay, I'll just wait for my team then. Sounds good. Come back with them and I'll let you in then. Please step out of line. I stepped out of line while looking at the floor. That was disappointing. I just blurted out that nonsense about a team so I could get back in line later and it wouldn't look weird. I started walking back towards the E-class line while scanning the area. Maybe I can hitch a ride in someone else's party. I won't actually fight with them, I'll just get down to the platform with them. That'll work. I grinned. I walked around for a few minutes but no one looked approachable. Usually other people do the approaching to me. I'm still a bit socially awkward. I haven't thought about it much lately. Even though everyone around me seems to be out to get me in my own mind, is that really a good excuse to never try and make a new friends? Then I remembered Nessa and Hudson's group. They're hunting this morning, I could get in with them. I wasn't planning on it initially, but if I have to go with anyone I'd rather go with them than some randoms. I started wandering around a bit more confidently because now I'm looking for a party that I've already met before. This shouldn't be too hard, unless they've already entered the dungeon. The sun did just recently rise. I waited around watching groups of hunters funnel into the dungeons for about 20 minutes. Most people swarmed around the E and D class dungeons. There were a few that entered the C class, and not one person entered the B class dungeons. I did see a few parties go to the escalator in the back that went upwards. I completely forgot about that one. The gear those hunters had on were very expensive looking. It must be some kind of guild-run entrance. I'll check it out later if I have the time. It was kind of calming to watch the crowds of people go by. But at the same time I was getting a bit anxious in the back of my mind, wondering if they'd ever show up. Then finally I saw a familiar face. My eyes lit up as a party emerged from the crowd getting in line at the D-class escalator. It's Hudson and Nessa. I couldn't forget that red hair. What a relief. I walked over with a wide smile on my face. Hudson was the first to notice me. He looked up and waved. Then Nessa looked up and noticed me as well as I came within talking range. So you decided to actually come and see me? Jay. Well, yeah, I did. Are you hunting solo in the D-class dungeons today? I heard it may be really dangerous with the recent surge reports. I scratched the back of my head nervously and nodded slowly. Yeah, I was going to, but I kind of need to be in a party to enter. It's a temporary rule, apparently. Hudson leaned in and winked at me. Come on in with us. No problem. I smiled. He knows exactly what I need. Perfect. No explanation needed. Thanks. You're the best. Nessa chimed in again. She could clearly sense what was going on. Come on. Fight with us for a little. I want to see what you've got. Yeah, sure. I can't say no to her. Hudson interjected. So you'll be joining us today? I looked at him. It won't be the full time if you had special training planned. I don't want to disrupt your session. He grinned. Of course you can fight a few monsters with us today. I'd love to see what you can do. I've been trying to recruit you since the moment we met. It's no problem at all. We both chuckled a bit and I got in line between Nessa and Hudson. There were 3 other team members close behind. I didn't get a good look at them yet. The line started moving forward before I could introduce myself. Looks like I'm on another team. So much for my vow of solitude. At least I'll get to farm for another day in the D-class dungeons. Chapter 54. We all moved forward in line and approached the 2 guards. One of them recognized me. Hey, welcome back. Looks like you do have a party. I nodded. Yep. We all handed our IDs over and made it down the escalator to the D-class platform. It's a mess down here today. There are very large groups waiting by the train platforms but not boarding. Some of them have up to 10 hunters in a single party. I don't even know how that would be profitable. I guess everyone just wants a crack at some potential rare loot from dungeon breaks. They are all camping out waiting for an announcement of a new break. We walked through the crowd to the train platform that would bring us to the Minotaur dungeon. Less than 5 minutes later our train arrived and we boarded. Hudson spoke up. Another day in the dungeons. What a life, huh? The Minotaur dungeon should still be fairly safe today. There is a guild order to clear the boss room if we get close. Plus to do maintenance where we see fit. I replied. Maintenance? What do you mean by that? He grinned. It just means we will have to defeat any mutants we come across to relieve some magic pressure. A routine check of the boss room wouldn't be a bad idea either. Can't let too much energy build up. Especially on the peak day of the surge. Okay. Good to know. I didn't know dungeons worked exactly like that. I haven't seen a mutant in this dungeon yet though, only a few abnormally high levels. Have you? Yeah, there's an occasional mutant. Should be no problem, our team can handle it. We're all high enough level and have some good skills to combat tough opponents. I'm hoping to submit 1 or 2 guild members for the C-class exams coming up in 2 weekends from now. They're holding them here in the city. Nessa's eyes lit up. Oh, you're talking about the C-class exams? Hopefully I'll be able to apply. I'm less than 50 levels away. I raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah? Hopefully I can make it in too. She smiled. Hudson spoke up. These will be your last easy levels. Trust me, I've only been in a few C-class dungeons. I don't level up much anymore. I'd much rather train recruits than face off against those monstrosities. I can only imagine the type of monsters in the higher level dungeons. It's making me excited thinking about it. I spoke up. Hey, if the dungeon doesn't show any signs of irregularities, I'd rather go off and hunt on my own. No offense, I just would like to have the levels and loot to myself. Hudson nodded slowly. Makes sense. Sure. Nessa looked at me with a disappointed look on her face. I met her eyes and replied, Hey, don't look at me like that. I'll stick around for a little while. We'll fight together for the first few monster sighting. Her face lit up again. Screech. The train stopped by our platform and we all got off to make our way up the escalator. Soon after we all jumped through the floating blue portal. There are 6 members to our team. I used Inspect on everyone. There's me. I'm level 182. But clearly that's not a perfect representation of my strength. Hudson is level 265. Other than his physical strength and long sword, I don't know anything about him yet. He's definitely strong though. Nessa is LV 206. She seems quick, but doesn't carry any weapons. There could be something in her item box, or maybe she has some kind of interesting skill that doesn't require a weapon. There are 2 other girls on the team. One of them has long black hair, pale white skin, wears a black raid suit, and carries 2 daggers. She is level 178. The other girl is dark-skinned and very tall. She's slim with curly brown hair and carries a thin silver long sword. She is level 184. The 2 of them seem to stick together. There's one last team member. He seems to be a tank. He's short, but very thick. When we entered the dungeon, I saw him pull out a massive shield. Nothing else. Maybe he focuses on only defense? I'm not sure yet. He's level 198. We all walked together into the dungeon. Hudson led the party while Nessa and I walked closely. The other 3 members walked right behind us. The dungeon didn't feel much different at all today. Dungeon breaks usually have dense magic concentration in the air. At least we don't have to worry about that. After about 20 minutes of walking, we came across our first pair of monsters. I used Inspect. LV 158. LV 161. 2 minotaurs were standing around in an empty field. They didn't notice us yet. Hudson spoke up. You're the guest, why don't you take the first hit? Nessa, be his backup. We both nodded. I pointed my sword at the monsters and made my way towards them. Nessa followed close behind. She didn't take out a weapon or activate any skills. As we drew closer to the minotaurs, I decided to ignite my blade. This is the only skill I'll be using in front of this party today. I might as well give them a little show before I go off and hunt solo. As my blade erupted into flames, the closest monster turned its head to look at me. We were about 20 m away, and the one up front started to charge with its axe held high. Clang! Sparks flew as our weapons collided, and I pushed the beast backwards. My recent level UPS have upgraded my strength considerably. In the monster's confusion, I darted underneath it and swung at its abdomen with a fiery uppercut. The monster let out a roar as I ran behind it and finished the job with a final attack to the back of its neck. I let out a burst of flames to make sure the deed was done and looked at my work with a satisfied grin. That was easy. Nessa was watching from about 10 m back. She looked at me with a grin on her face ear to ear. Fire her! I nodded while pointing at the other minotaur with my blade. Yeah. 1 down, 1 to go. I'll leave it to you. She nodded and reached into her item box to pull out a long sword. My eyes widened a bit. A sword? Why didn't she pull that out earlier? The other minotaur realized its partner had been slain and didn't look happy about it. Nessa started running towards the beast, and it locked its eyes on her. Then something unexpected happened. Right in front of my eyes, I watched Nessa's blade turn dark red and become covered in a blanket of flames. This definitely fire magic. I couldn't mistake it for anything else. Clang! Sparks flew and flames shot up in the air as Nessa overpowered the monster in front of me. She left huge gashes in the minotaur and left fire reside identical to mine after every hit. I stood there in awe as she brought the monster to its knees, then to a pile of ash beside the one I defeated. She walked over to me with a smile on her face while putting out the flames on her blade. She placed it back into the item box on her waist and spoke up. "That's a pretty good skill. Thanks for letting me borrow it." Nessa winked and walked right past me with a smile. I stood there facing the two identical flaming corpses with a blank stare across my face. What did she just do? Chapter 55. Hey, what do you mean you're borrowing my skill? She giggled and turned back towards me. It's my skill called Mimic. I squinted at her with a confused look on my face. Okay, what exactly does it do? How's it work? Well, I can mimic any skill I see. I chose to mimic your fire magic, so it's now my skill as well. I froze for a moment. This could be even more powerful than my skill. She can just copy any skill she sees? Why, you can do this as much as you want? How many skills do you have? Nessa shook her head.
No.
It's not like that. If I choose to mimic another skill, I'll lose the ability to use my previously obtained skills. I can only hold one at a time. I need to see a specific skill again to switch it back. Okay, so you can just keep this fire magic skill until you decide to change it. Kind of. If I sleep or lose consciousness, my saved skill disappears. I have to find something new to mimic every day. It's a blessing and a curse. Does that make sense? Well, yeah, it does. That's interesting. I've never seen a skill like that. Nessa nodded at me with a satisfied look on her face. I haven't gotten to use fire magic in a while. I think I'll keep it for today. Hudson walked over to us. Nice work. These were low levels, but it's good to see you in action. Neat ability. We waited for the monsters to disappear and took 1 mana crystal each. It would be entertaining to tag along with this party today. But is it really a good use of my time? I'll get a fraction of the EXP, and barely any loot. I decided to speak up. Hey, thanks for getting me into the dungeon today. I think it would be more efficient if we split up though. I am more of a solo hunter after all. Hudson nodded slowly. Sure. Like I said before, we'll be doing a maintenance run of the boss room in about 4 hours. If you'd like to meet us there, I'd love to have you on the raid team and see you fight seriously. I smirked and thought about it for a moment. The boss room, huh? I was gonna wait a few days to challenge it, but with a full team of 6, I'm sure we could defeat it easily. I'd get some good levels and insight on the boss room for when I fight it alone too. I replied. Sure, that would be a pleasure. I'll do my daily farming and meet you all at the boss room in exactly 4 hours. Hudson grinned and put out his hand. I shook it. Great. Nessa bobbed her head a bit and smiled at me as she spoke. See you soon, Jay. I smiled and waved as I turned and made a quick departure deeper into the dungeon. See ya. I'm always awkward at goodbyes. At least we'll see each other in a few hours. The dungeon is calm today. There's no sense of any excess magic in the air. One thing did keep coming up in the back of my mind though. Nessa's skill is really similar to mine. No wonder she's leveled up so fast. Is it a unique? I'll ask her more about it later today. Over the next 3 hours or so, I roamed around getting deeper and deeper in the dungeon, closing in on the boss room portal. There were 6 major battles that took place during this time. The first 3 groups of Minotaur were all between level 155 and 165. Some of them were defeated in 1 hit. They dropped 9 large mana in total and a single axe. No levels were gained during these matches. The 4th group consisted of a level 167 and 188. This is a good sign that I was getting deeper into the dungeon. They both dropped mana but no extra loot. I gained 1 level during this battle. The 5th matchup was 3 monsters in total. Their levels were 172, 177, and 192. The 2 lower levels charged in first and the leader used them as a decoy. Every group like this always uses the same strategy. It gets easier each time. They all dropped mana, and one of the lower level beasts dropped an axe. I gained 2 levels during this battle. I could tell I was nearing the end of the dungeon as my 6th battle started. There was a slight feeling of magic in the air as I approached this group. It consisted of a level 175, 199, and a 203. The lower level was easy, and the two higher levels seemed to be fighting for a chance to attack me the whole time. I weaved, dodged, and blocked with body hardening over and over until I wore them down to piles of ash. It's a good thing I'm still faster and more agile than these monsters. They dropped 3 mana, and surprisingly another axe. I gained 4 levels from this fight. It's pretty easy to navigate most dungeons. The general landscape is the same for all of them. Once you spawn in through the start point, all you have to do is trek 3 to 7 kilometers max straight forward to find the boss room. Some terrains are just harder to navigate than others. I've been doing a bit of a zigzag pattern to farm monsters, but I'm definitely less than a kilometer away now. The air is kind of dense, but it's nothing new. Whenever a mutant or strong monster is nearby, it feels like this. It may just be what getting close to a strong D-class boss room feel like. I walked forward for another 10 minutes or so and finally got to the large hill at the back of the dungeon. It should be right around here somewhere. Looks like you made it here early too. How'd your farming go? I saw Hudson stand up and wave to me as the rest of the team sat under a tree eating lunch. I waved back and replied, "Not bad. The loot drops are pretty good today." Hudson nodded. "Same for us." Nessa threw me a bottle of water. "Drink up. We're fighting the boss today. Hudson says it's no joke." I grinned with excitement and drank a good amount before putting it in my item box. "Thanks. When are we heading in?" Hudson interrupted. "It's right around this hill. About a 5-minute walk at most. We just finished fighting a pair of mutants. We're definitely close to the boss room." I turned to him with my eyes wide. "Mutants? I didn't even see one today." "Yeah, we ran into 2 groups so far. They seem to be staying close by the boss room. You feel that magic in the air?" I nodded.
Ido.
I didn't want to mention it. "You think there's going to be a break?" Hudson smirked. "Nah, there isn't nearly enough for a break. Maybe a mutant boss if we're lucky. That'll be some good levels for all of you. Once we beat it, the dungeon will calm down a bit. Nothing out of the ordinary. All right, you know best." Hudson turned to the rest of the team. "Ready to fight the boss? I think we've rested for long enough." They all got up and readied their combat gear.
Nessa Schulte.
"Okay, let's go." I drew my sword and we were off. The closer we got to the back of the dungeon, the more and more eerie it felt. Hudson seemed to be calm about the situation, so I didn't worry much about it either. After 5 minutes of walking there were still no monsters in sight. Hudson is about 10 m ahead of us, leading the way up a small section of hill. He yelled down to us, "I see it. Looks like we have a mutant to deal with." I ran up to see what he was talking about with my sword ready and a grin across my face, but it turned into more shock than excitement when I took in the view. Right in front of us, on a small patch of flat ground, stood a dark black portal. I spoke up as the other team members climbed the hill behind me. "This is no ordinary mutant boss. You've dealt with a portal like this before, right?" Hudson turned to all of us. "Anyone that would like to leave is free to go. This will not be an easy fight." We all started looking at each other with a bit of confusion. Nessa chimed in. "I'm in. I trust you as my captain." Hudson replied, "I can't guarantee your safety with a portal like this. Black portal mutants can be very unpredictable." Nessa didn't bat an eye. "But your skill. We can all do this together." "Yes, my skill will aid us in this battle. I'd just like to give you all the option to leave. There will be a borderline C-class monster in there. You all signed up for basic training, not this."
Nessa nodded.
"I know the risks. I'm in." The other 3 team members talked quietly with each other. Then the tank stepped forward. "We're in. The levels will be worth it." Then they all turned to me. I couldn't hold back my excitement. This is exactly the type of situation I was secretly hoping for. Finally, another strong opponent. "I'm in." Hudson smirked as he turned to all of us. "Well, everyone ready? I'll stay up front. Nessa and Jay will lead the main attack. You 3 stay back for support. There's usually a wave of monsters before the boss. Take care of those for us." Everyone nodded in agreement and faced the spinning black portal. Without much hesitation, we all jumped through. Chapter 56. Once transferred into the boss room, I looked around in awe. This is much different than I expected it to be. We all stood in a wide open plain with short grass and no trees. There were tall rocky hills blocking off the area, acting as walls in all directions around us. It was about 500 m long and 500 m wide if I had to guess. The sky is a light gray color, similar to when it's about to rain. The air visibility is fine up close, but it is a little misty when looking far off into the boss room. There are no monsters in sight, but I hear a rumbling in the distance. I used Inspect and Enemy Detection. LV 224, LV 227, LV 228, LV 230, LV 231, LV 231, LV 256. My jaw dropped. I yelled, "Incoming! There's 7 of them. 7 bosses." Hudson yelled back to all us. "Nessa and Jay, follow me. You 3 take on the Stampede. Those aren't bosses, we're going to be dealing with a real boss soon though." The team of 3, including the tank and 2 women, nodded and charged towards the monsters. Hudson led us away from the soon-to-be battlefield. I followed close behind but yelled at him. "They can't handle it. Those monsters are much stronger than anything I faced out in the dungeon. Are you trying to kill your team?" He grinned at me. One moment. We stopped running and turned around to face the action. Nessa and Hudson both stood there smiling, watching their team members charge towards impending doom. They're all barely level 200. I don't know how they could possibly win. Are these people crazy? Hudson clasped his hands together and started squatting down slowly while closing his eyes. A warm yellow light started to glow all around him and spread out rapidly. As the light hit me, I could feel an immense amount of warm energy fill my body. It shot up through my legs into my back and all throughout my arms. I felt energized and ready for battle. Even stronger, maybe? I watched the team of 3 run towards the group of monsters as they came into view. The yellow light reached them seconds after it hit me. The moment it did, they all began running significantly faster than before. The 7 Minotaur that appeared were very intimidating. The monsters in the normal dungeon were nothing in comparison. These ones are all about 5 m tall, and they're packed head to toe with muscle mass. Every step crushes the ground. I can feel the rumble from hundreds of meters away. Their skin is a very dark red color with some black fur spots in certain areas. They all carry massive silver axes and look angry as can be. The highest level monster is up front, and the other 6 are in 2 lines of 3 behind it. The tank was up front facing them off. After the wave of energy from Hudson, I'm feeling much more confident in them despite the obvious level disadvantage. Moments later, the battle really began. The tank charged onward with his heavy shield facing forward and used some type of body-hardening magic. His entire body turned a silver color that matched his gear and took on the Minotaur's axe. Clang! He blocked it. The tank even managed to push that level 256 monster backwards as the rogue and sword wielder attacked the beast from both sides. They both landed a clean hit and actually did a little of damage. It's almost like they're fighting opponents of similar level. How could this be? I spoke to myself out loud. How? How did they get so much stronger? Hudson grinned at me with a look of satisfaction. It's my skill. I can buff the surrounding hunter stats for about 1 minute. It'll use up all my MP, but that's what we're here for. To train you guys, not me. He smiled. I replied, "That's a useful skill. How much is the buff?" "Well, right now it'll raise every stat by about 25%. Comes in handy for boss rooms like this. Unfortunately, I can only buff my team members. It doesn't work on myself." "Makes sense. That's really good." I nodded and looked back at the battle at hand while thinking to myself. So if a hunter is around level 200, that means with this buff in place their stats are equivalent to a level 250. It may only last for a minute, but that may be all the time we need. You could grind some serious levels with a skill like that. No wonder he trains D-class hunters for his guild. The rogue and sword wielder were incredibly fast compared to the 6 Minotaur in the back. The one up front could track their movements and block attacks pretty easily though. Its overall defense is also incredibly high. At this rate, they need to land 30-50 plus more of those hits to take it down. The tank kept the level 256 busy by letting it hit him over and over again while he used his hardening skill. The other two weaved in and out of the other 6 Minotaur, slowly chipping away at their HP. About a minute later, half of them were on the ground. Hudson drank an MP potion and let out another surge of energy. It began to flow through my body again, and I felt all my stats increase simultaneously. The second time was still just as cool as the first. As the 2 women finished off the other 3 weaker opponents, I watched the beast bash away at the tank's shield. He is definitely getting tired, but his teammates are now on the way to help. The team of 3 faced off against their final opponent. I watched with jealous eyes. They must be having such a good time with that beast. They'll need to chip away at it slowly and be very careful with every move they take. I watched in awe for a few more seconds, wishing I could also be out on the battlefield. Then I felt an ominous presence. Like it answered my thoughts. The air felt dense and everyone turned to the back of the cave. Even the remaining Minotaur paused its attacks for a moment. Something evil is lurking at the back of this dungeon. The real boss is finally here. I could almost visibly see a dark fog coming from the distance, but I think it's just my imagination. The heavy magic in the air and light mist are playing tricks on me. I used Inspect and Enemy Detection. My heart skipped a beat. LV 312. It's over level 300. How is this possible? Even with Hudson's buff, no one here even gets close to its level. The 3 occupied team members continued their battle. I could see Nessa was visibly concerned. She could also tell whatever just appeared is incredibly strong. Hudson looked confident still. I guess he has a plan. That made me feel a bit better. I'm shaking, with some nerves, but mostly excitement. I can't control it. I stared out into the distance as a large shadowy figure emerged from the horizon, coming at us with unbelievable speed. Hudson shouted, "I have 2 more full MP potions. Nessa and Jay, take it from here. You have just under 3 minutes to take this thing out." I looked at Nessa and she looked back at me. We both ignited our swords and sprinted forward towards the creature in the distance. As we got closer, it came into view and let out a mighty roar. I couldn't believe my eyes at first. This is truly a demon. The monster's skin is jet black and it stands over 7 m tall. The beast's muscles and veins are somehow even more impressive than its underlings, with very visible striations and oversized limbs. The horns coming off of its head are a different color than any other Minotaur I've seen before as well. They seem to be black, but they shine a deep crimson color when light hits them from an angle. It wears huge silver wrist guards and wields a massive battle axe to match them. The energy emanating off it gets stronger and stronger with every step closer I get. This is definitely going to be my hardest battle yet, and I can't wait. Chapter 57. Nessa and I continued charging forward with flaming blades straight at the mutant boss. The closer we get, the denser the air fills up with magic. The beast is cracking the ground with every step and letting out large amounts of air from its nose while grunting. The speed of the Minotaur is astounding. I've never seen anything move this fast. Even with my stat buff from Hudson, this beast still has me beat on speed. It's clearly much stronger, and from prior experience with its kind I can assume its defense is much better than mine too. That just leaves agility. Hopefully I have it beat there. We're less than 50 m away now. 40 m, 30 m, 20 m. It's time to fight. Nessa and I nodded at each other and broke off to opposite sides of the monster to launch a dual attack. I ran right, she ran left. The Minotaur reacted instantly by swinging its axe towards Nessa and its massive silver-plated arm at me. I attacked it with a blade full of fire. It's giving me a free shot to the arm right above the wrist guards. I might as well take it while I have the chance. As I made contact, my eyes went wide and my whole demeanor changed. I swung with all my might and used a lot of fire magic, but my attack barely pierced its skin. The Minotaur followed through with its swing and smacked me like an annoying bug at point blank. This sent me flying in the air 15 m backwards. I blocked some of the impact with my sword, but I could feel a few bones break from its overwhelming strength. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a streak of fire fly off in the other direction. Nessa's attack was futile as well. The boss overpowered both of us like it was swatting flies. I used my sword to bring myself back up to my feet. I used Regenerate to heal a few broken ribs from the impact and checked my status. It read out 595/950 HP and 865/950 MP. I looked around to get a feel for the entire situation. The team of 3 are still fighting their Minotaur. It seems like they're doing all right. That battle will just take time. I trust them to finish it off. Hudson is about 100 behind us. He's still sending out a stat buff signal. At this rate, we only have 2 minutes left at most. I watched Nessa stand to her feet, chugging an HP potion while dripping blood. Looks like she's okay, but took a brutal hit from that axe. I'm gonna have to use my other skills if I want to have any chance fighting this creature. It's the only way. I'll deal with the consequences after I make it out of this alive. We both charged back in at the beast with our swords ablaze. I went in aiming for its weak spots this time. I thought maybe with increased agility I could maneuver under its arms and get a slice in behind the knee. I was mistaken. Even with 2 sword-wielding hunters coming at it from both sides, the Minotaur managed to time its hits on both of us perfectly. This time I was the one on the side with its axe. As it came down, I tried to dodge and maneuver around the blade and run under its body to take advantage of a blind spot. The beast's eyes tracked me with laser focus until I was out of sight. Then it relied on instincts alone to cut me down instantly. It turned the axe blade mid-swing and landed a hit to my unguarded torso. The moment I registered what was happening, I hardened my entire front side. It lightened the blow, but black crystals shattered everywhere as I was blown backwards, sliding across the ground a solid 10 I watched Nessa land a small hit on its arm as she was thrown across the field opposite to me again. I stood up, spitting out a mouthful of blood. That was a serious hit. I tried to regenerate my torn open chest the best I could and checked my status. It read out 40/950 HP and 765/950 MP. I grabbed an HP potion and chugged it as fast as I could. I need a new plan. This mindless charging is not going to work. I rely too much on my physical strength and speed sometimes. I need to use my brain if I want to beat this behemoth. I shook my head back and forth for a few seconds, trying to think of anything worth trying. Then something really dumb, or maybe genius, came to mind. Either way, it'll look cool. It's all I can think of right now. It's worth a shot. I yelled to Nessa, "Hey, listen, do you have any loot from today's raids?" She turned to me with a confused and half-horrified look. "What? Yes. Why? This is not the time for that. Take it out of your item box. Trust me." She looked at me with bewilderment and decided to go along with my plan. Nessa pulled 3 large axes out of her item box and placed them on the ground in front of her. "That's all I have. Where do you want them?" "Right there." "Perfect." I took the 3 axes from my own farming out of item storage and placed them on the ground in front of me as well. The Minotaur watched us curiously for a moment, but began to charge at us again. I dropped my sword and closed my eyes. Telekinesis. I repeated my new skill's name over and over in my head. I haven't used it before today. This better work. I focused on the 6 axes in front of me, and they all lifted up into the air above my head in a circle formation. I tried to replicate the shaman's design as best I could. It seemed to work well for it. The monster shifted directions and charged at me. It paid no attention to Nessa. I ignited each axe into flames and prepared my attack. I ran forward at the beast and motioned my arms at the monster's head. The axes flew through the air, leaving trails of fire behind them like shooting stars. I sent the 6 flaming projectiles rocketing towards the Minotaur's face. The monster let out a mighty roar as it tried to block them with its own axe. I twisted my hands around in the air and changed the axe's trajectory mid-flight. They all narrowly swerved around the monster's axe and continued towards its face. Clang! I watched 3 of the axes shatter instantly as they collided with the Minotaur's dark crimson horns. The other 3 axes actually made it through for a few direct hits. 2 struck its nose and 1 landed very close to its left eye. The fire burned bright, and the Minotaur let out a roar of pain. Not a total failure after all. That actually did some damage, but not nearly enough to slow this beast down. Enough to buy me some time to think of something else, though. I concentrated and pulled the remaining 3 axes from the Minotaur's flesh while leaving small amounts of flame residue behind. Its face seems to be a bit weaker than the rest of its body. The problem is those horns. I brought the axes back towards me and let them hover above my head. Nessa stared at me with a serious look on her face. I'll leave the questioning for later. That can buy us some time. Have anything else up your sleeve? Land as many hits as you can while I distract it. I'll come up with something else once these axes are done. We both nodded at each other and ran in opposite directions. The monster followed me with my flaming axes and ignored Nessa again. I motioned my arms at the Minotaur's face again, and the 3 remaining axes flew straight ahead. It swung at them with its own axe, and I successfully swerved around it again. Clang! 2 of the axes shattered into pieces as they made contact with the beast's horns. The remaining axe made it through and landed right next to its left eye again where I'd hit the monster previously. It let out a roar and managed to grab the axe with its other hand and pull it out before I could get a hold of it myself. The beast slammed the axe against its own horn and shattered it to pieces. During all of this confusion, Nessa had enough time to land a few clean fiery hits on the monster's legs and retreat back towards me without taking any damage. The Minotaur hardly seemed to notice it at all. Its defenses are insane. I heard Hudson shout something from behind us as he chugged an MP potion. This is the last one, you all have about a minute left. Make it count. I gritted my teeth and grinned at the monstrosity in front of me. With all odds stacked against me, I'm really starting to enjoy this battle. I'll find a way to win. I have to. Chapter 58. I look around to see all my new team members fighting for their lives in battle. The team of 3 has done some pretty good work on their Minotaur. With a little more time, they'll be able to finish it off. Nessa is visibly exhausted, but she's landed a few good hits on the boss with me so far. If I had to guess, I'd say it still has 90% of its HP left. There's no way we'll be able to beat it with the strategy we're working with now. I'm out of axes to throw. I left my sword on the ground about 20 m away, and we're running out of time. Hudson has 30 seconds left of his stat buff at best. The boss begins to sprint towards me, grunting and cracking the earth beneath its massive legs. I have to think. This is the moment in every battle where I feel the most alive. I'm calm, but on the edge of my breaking point as well. My brain is working on overdrive, flashing every past battle experience over and over in my head, trying to use instinctive pattern recognition to solve my current predicament. It's the most stressful, yet best feeling in the world. The boss is less than 10 m away from me now. It's seconds away from a brutal attack. At this moment, an idea finally popped into my head. I yelled to Nessa and positioned my arm backward in the direction of my fallen sword. Hey, how many MP potions do you have on you? She yelled back. Just 1 left. I smirked as I used telekinesis to make my sword fly back into my right hand. Clang! The moment I gripped my sword, the Minotaur's axe came down. I created a thick wall of crystal hardening on the front side of my body and took on the majority of the blow with my sword. Crack! I watched my sword begin to splinter in front of my eyes as the axe pushed me backward. This beast overpowered me again. It followed through with its strike and broke my sword in 2. The axe slammed into my torso and shattered my black crystal armor, throwing me backward, sliding a solid 15 m across the rocky ground. While coughing up blood, I checked my status. It read out 275/950 HP and 540/950 MP. I have to put my final plan into action now if we want to have any chance of surviving this. I chugged my last HP potion and watched the boss quickly turn towards Nessa. I stood out in the open with half a sword and a malicious grin across my face while igniting into flames. I threw my broken sword at the Minotaur's head and used telekinesis to ensure a direct hit. Hey! You're fighting me? Big guy! The dull piece of metal hit the back of its head and the beast shifted its focus back to me. I yelled to Nessa, "Take that MP potion to Hudson right now. I'll distract it. Use Mimic on Hudson's skill and give me a double buff." This is our only chance. Her eyes went wide and nodded. Nessa ran towards Hudson while the boss stared me down, getting ready for another attack. We're almost 100 m away from Hudson. I have to stall for as long as I can. The boss charged. I just ran away. There's no point in fighting for these next 10 seconds. All I have to do is distract it for a little bit longer. I sprinted far away from everyone. With the Minotaur inching closer and closer every second, all I'm focusing on is how fast I can move my feet. 5 seconds later, the boss is right on my tail. It's less than 10 m away from me, but I don't dare look back. 5 more seconds go by. My lungs are burning and my legs have never moved this fast. I feel the ground cracking under every step I take. The beast's breath is hitting my back. I've run out of time. Clang! I hear the swing of the axe behind me and harden my back the best I can while bracing for impact. Black crystal fragments fly everywhere as my defenses are shattered, along with a few bones in my lower spine, and I'm thrown 20 m forward in the air, even further from the battlefield. I immediately regenerate my broken back and climb to my feet with a groan. I check my status to see 135/950 HP and 410/950 MP. The monster is charging towards me for its final fatal blow. I ignite my entire body into flames and prepare for whatever it'll throw at me next. Then I see a ripple of yellow light coming my way across the ground. She made it just in time. Nessa really pulled through. I run forward to match the charge of the boss and concentrate my fire magic into the palms of my hands. We're less than 10 m apart as I plunge into the fast-approaching yellow light. I feel even more energy surge into my body. My steps speed up, my magic feels stronger, and I looked at the monster with a very new perspective. As we were about to collide, I narrowly dodged the axe flying towards me and swerved around its right side. The monster is still very quick and definitely much stronger than me, but the battle I'm fighting in now seems like a slow-motion version of before. With the element of surprise, I dodged its blade and managed to get behind it. I planted my right leg and turned, carrying a fist full of fire. I shaped the fire magic into a sword and plunged it deep into the Minotaur's back while letting out a yell. I released as much of my fire as I could into the monster while absorbing MP at the same time. This may be the only time I can catch it off guard. I'll take advantage of this situation as much as I can. The monster let out a vicious roar and twisted its body to shake me off for a full 4 seconds. I managed to do some serious damage. It was not happy about it. The beast jumped in the air and leaned back. At this moment I knew I overstayed my welcome and darted off as fast as I could. Thud! The boss fell on its back, attempting to crush me, but also succeeding in putting out some of the flames. It got to its feet immediately and stared me down. I made the first move and started running at it. I need to keep the pressure hot while the advantage is mine. The double buff will wear out in less than a minute. I'll have to get it done just like every other battle of this nature. Dodge, weave, and only take guaranteed hits. It's still stronger than me, but I finally have a speed and agility advantage. This is what I'm used to. I sprinted forward and spun around its axe. The boss learned from its last failure and turned its body when the axe swing missed. I wasn't able to get behind it this time. I assumed this would be the case. Mid-turn, I focused a large amount of fire magic into my palms and created a dense orb of flames. I let the orb fly out of my hands and used telekinesis to direct its path. The monster's axe was down on the ground, and its attention was focused on not letting me behind it. The orb of fire flew towards the monster's face and made an impact right in the center of its forehead. It exploded, letting out a massive amount of energy and flames. The boss let out a roar and put its arms in the air, flailing in pain. I took this opportunity to summon my fire sword and jumped up to make a deep gash across its chest. On the way down, I sliced open its right leg deep to the bone, letting my fire burn bright and absorbing MP in the process. It shrieked and flailed, but soon set its focus on me again. The monster was getting tired. It began moving slower, but its deadly stare never changed. This beast will not give up until the end. The boss initiated a charge this time, and I matched it. I easily dodged its axe swing and ran around its backside. The beast attempted to turn with me, but it has become too slow to keep up with me. That gash on the right leg must have really done a number on it. I concentrated every last bit of MP I had into a final blow. My sword of fire burned bright as I jumped up and sunk it deep into the back of its neck. I let out a yell while releasing a blast of energy that brought the beast to its knees. A well-fought battle. Without my team members, I couldn't have won this one. I absorbed as much of the dying monster's MP as I could while continuously releasing fire magic into its body. The boss let out a final grunt. Then I heard a ringing in my head that confirmed my victory. Level up, 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 level up. Name, J. Soch. Level 211. HP, 280/1060.
MEP, 205-1060.
Strength, 512, plus 128, plus 128. Speed, 606, plus 152, plus 152. Agility, 630, plus 156, plus 156. Defense, 451, plus 180, plus 113, plus 113. Mental strength, 512, plus 102, plus 128, plus 128. Skills, absorption, swordsmanship, combat magic, fire summoning, inspect, special grade, enemy detection, body hardening, special grade, self-regeneration, spatial magic, item storage, plunder, telekinesis, items equipped, golden wolf ring, plus 20% mental strength, Cyclops eye pendant, plus 40% defense, buffs, 25% plus all base stats, 25% plus all base stats. I gained 22 levels. Even while sharing the EXP with 5 other team members, that is some serious level gains. My stats are significantly buffed temporarily too. I feel great. The body of the Minotaur disappeared in front of me and 2 large items fell from the corpse. A massive mana crystal rolled to my feet, but beside it lay an item that made me grin ear to ear. The massive dark horn of the Minotaur glimmered a deep dark crimson color in the faint light of the dungeon. It was left as a reward for my battle. I could feel the boss emitting a strange aura of dominance even after its death. With a smirk, I placed it in my item storage. Moments later, I looked up to see a few members of the team running towards me in the distance. Then, after a few seconds, the rest of them followed close behind. It looks like we all made it out of here alive. What a relief. This could have totally gone another way. Chapter 59. I lifted the large mana crystal up in the air to show them the boss's loot, but the white transfer light already started. We were all sent back to the dungeon's starting point. I heard Hudson's voice a moment later. That was much harder than I predicted it would be. Usually, 1 buff is more than enough. I'm glad we all made it out unharmed. I looked at him with mixed emotions. I'm a bit frustrated with him for letting us all go into this potential death trap with him. On the other hand, he did warn us beforehand, and I'm really glad I got to fight an opponent of this magnitude. It'll prepare me for when I have to fight C-class monsters like this without aid from teammates in the future. I replied and tossed the mana crystal up and down in my hand. It's fine, I had fun. Nessa jumped in. Hey, it's kind of not fine. We almost all died. I nodded and shrugged. Yeah, but we didn't. This post-fight adrenaline makes up for everything. I don't really care much about anything but riding this high as long as I can. Nessa was visibly annoyed, but in a half-playful way. Hudson laughed a little. Well, I think that's more than enough for today. Jay, would you like to come back to the guild with us? Nessa nodded at me. Yeah, you should come and check the guild out. I'd say we have a few things to talk about. She winked. You're right. I'll come. Nessa definitely saw me use a few skills at once. I don't think it matters though, as long as she doesn't go telling everyone in town about it. You can tell a lot about someone when you're in a life or death situation with them. Even with my past issues and the fact that we just recently met, I'm going to put my trust in Nessa, just like she put her trust in me during our battle with the boss. We all stepped out of the dungeon and took the train back to the main dungeon hub. The area is packed with hunters. Apparently, there's been a record-high amount of breaks and mutants today. I overheard the guards speaking to a crowd on our way out. All platform clearance ranks have been raised by 1 full class. It does not matter if you're in a party. You must be a C-class hunter to enter any of the D-class dungeons until further notice. Please bear with us. This is for your own safety. That makes sense. This really must be the peak of the surge. Hudson spoke up. Follow me. He leads us through the crowd and out into the open street. We walked for less than 10 minutes and came across a tall silver building. It looked like every other office building in the city. We walked through the front door and were greeted by 2 men in formal wear. One of them spoke to Hudson. Welcome back so soon. How'd the raid go today? He replied. We had some issues, but everyone made it out unharmed. I brought in a new potential recruit. I'd like to talk to the guild master if he's free. Glad to hear it. I'll put in a request for you. Heal up in the training rooms. Someone will come to get you once you've all fully recovered. Hudson nodded and shook the man's hand while motioning us to follow. We took the elevator up a few floors and made it to a long symmetrical hallway that looked just like the training rooms at the Hunters Association. There were just fewer doors in this hallway. Hudson opened the first door on the left and we all walked in. It is a white-walled room with the low hum of mana shields. There are a few racks full of armor, weapons, and potions on the back wall. Everyone walks over and starts healing up. Hudson spoke. Go ahead. Take what you need to heal yourself. I nodded and walked over to drink an HP and an MP potion to restore myself completely. Then I heard Hudson's voice again. Nessa and Jay, stay with me here. Could the rest of you bring the leftover loot to the trade-in center? Then take the rest of the day off? We've been through enough. Nessa and Hudson dropped handfuls of mana onto the ground. The tank and 2 women took them all and left the room. Hudson turned to me. Now let's address the elephant in the room. You're a multi-skill user. I saw you use at least 3, Nessa did as well. Is this known by anyone else? Are you affiliated with any guilds? I took a deep breath in and out before replying. This feels more like an interrogation than a conversation now, but at least he asked the team members who didn't see my other skills to leave the room. Yes, I have one non-exclusive contract with a small guild in my hometown. I do have a few very promising skills. I appreciate the privacy. It seems you already understand my situation. I only used them to save our lives. I wouldn't have shown off if I didn't have to. They both nodded. Hudson spoke up. Would you like to join our guild with a non-exclusive as well? What benefits would I gain? There are already tons of dungeons in the city. Are there any private ones? What's in it for me? Well, the only benefit at your current class we could offer would be a salary and access to gear to train with. Okay. If I were to join, I'd like non-disclosure contracts made. Anyone I party with cannot leak information about my skills. You two included. I'd rather not party with anyone new, or honestly with anyone at all if that's possible. Understood. That could be arranged. What about special dungeons not available to the public? That's what I'm interested in. I don't care much about a salary. We don't have access to any unique dungeons yet. The only thing I can think of that could benefit you would be to access the labyrinth when you reach C-class. I raised an eyebrow. The labyrinth? Hudson looked a bit puzzled at my response. The labyrinth? You've never heard of it? I shook my head.
No.
Tell me, what is this place? He grinned. It's a multi-stage dungeon at the center of the capital. It's been there since the Great War. The strongest hunters flock to it from all over the Vice region to raid for riches and experience. I scratched my head. A multi-stage dungeon? What do you mean by that? Well, it's easier to explain it in terms of floors. When you enter, you'll be on the level known as Floor 1. In the Vice Labyrinth, it's just a goblin dungeon. You have to defeat the boss of each floor to advance to the next. Floor 10 is a dungeon similar in strength to the one we just raided. Every floor increases in difficulty. It is rumored that the Vice Labyrinth is over 50 floors. The more hunters that enter, the bigger the labyrinth grows. The magic energy from hunters that enter is taken in and used to spawn more floors. The one in the city center has been growing for around 50 years. No one has made it to the last floor yet. I stared at him with my eyes wide. So, what happens if someone defeats the boss on the last floor? Hudson smiled. Well, the labyrinth disappears. Every once in a while, smaller labyrinths spawn in towns or even out in the mountains where there is excess magic buildup. Smaller ones are defeated quickly around here. They can be as small as 10 to 20 floors. The loot is usually very rare and drops a much higher percentage of the time in labyrinths. Wow! I need to try one of those. They aren't too well known out in the countryside. It's mostly government-run, and occasionally elite guild members enter. If you're not from around here, I guess it would make sense for you not to know much about it. I personally have never entered the capital labyrinth. I nodded. Well, in that case, I think I'll pass on joining the guild for the time being. Maybe when there are some good benefits for me. *********. A woman with long blonde hair, black glasses, and carrying a large notepad walked in. Sorry to interrupt. Hudson, your request to see the guild master has been delayed. He's out of town for a few days. Hudson nodded slowly and motioned her to leave. It's okay. Thank you for letting me know. The woman left and we all stood in silence for a few seconds. Nessa chimed in. Well, that went completely off topic. We didn't agree on anything final, but I'm glad we cleared a few things up. I just wanted to thank you for today, Jay. Just know the fact that you're a multi-skill user is safe with me. I won't say a word if you don't want me to. She smiled at me. Hudson spoke up too. Same with me, I don't think it's that big a deal though. This is a big world, you know. Eventually, word will have to get out if you want to keep climbing the ranks as a hunter. I nodded. You're right. I appreciate it. I think it's about time I get going. So soon? I could show you around the training facility if you'd like. Ooh. I'll have to pass for now. I'd like to head out before it gets too late in the day. I have a few things to do. I will come by again soon though. Sure. Come by anytime you want. We can get some good training in. Nessa, could you show him out to the lobby? I shook Hudson's hand and followed Nessa out the door and into the elevator. She looked at me curiously. We reached the bottom floor pretty quickly. Nessa smiled and waved. I hope we can party up again. I'd like to get to know you more, you know? I smiled back and waved back. I agree. Maybe I'll see you in the D-class dungeons later this week. I'll be back. She nodded and the sliding doors closed behind me as I walked away. Moments later, I made it out into the busy street. Labyrinths, huh? I vaguely remember reading about them but had no idea there was one here in the city. That's something to look forward to. I started walking towards the market to sell my mana and get this Minotaur horn checked out. After that, I need to get another new sword. It'll have to be a lot stronger this time around. I can't believe I broke another one. Chapter 60. I made my way back to the market with a smile on my face. The guild took the 7 mana from those other monsters, so I think it's fair that I get to keep the big mana from the boss. It ended up being a pretty even split. The Minotaur horn, on the other hand, I'll just take it as compensation for dealing the final blow to the boss. They didn't even see me place it in my item storage, so it's fair game in my mind. About 15 minutes later, I walked into the square and waved to the old merchant. Hey kid, how's it going? What do you have for me today? I dumped my mana out onto the silver scale. It read out 3104.53 MU. I have one more thing for you as well. I looked over my shoulder to make sure no one was looking and reached into my item storage to pull out the large Minotaur horn. Thud. I set the huge item on the table and looked at the merchant with a satisfied smile on my face. What can you give me for this? I need to buy a new sword today too. so give me your best price. The merchant raised an eyebrow and his eyes went wide as he examined the horn. I watched him scratch his head and feel every inch of it for a solid 30 seconds straight. He finally looked up. This is some rare C-grade material we're working with here. I'm sure people would pay 5 gold. No, even 10 gold if you found the right buyer for this. I smirked. What is it even used for? Well, if you can find a good blacksmith, horns like these can be turned into incredible blades. I personally have never seen one of this size. You could make an incredible sword out of it. I grinned while thinking back to my battle with the Minotaur. It shattered 6 axes and my main sword like they were made of glass. Where can I find a blacksmith? If you go to the main shopping center, there's a pretty good sword shop on the 8th floor. It's called Apollo's Sword Shop. I can give you an adder dash. Oh, I've been there before. They do custom work. The merchant nodded. That's great. Yeah, bring that horn in. I'm sure they'll have a blacksmith available. Thanks. Oh, and for the mana. How about 30 silver? The old man nodded once. Works for me. As always, pleasure doing business. I shook the merchant's hand and placed the silver coins along with the Minotaur's horn into my item box. You too. Thanks again, old man. With a wave goodbye, I turned and headed off to the shopping center. When I arrived, I walked into the building to look up and see the sky. This building has some beautiful architecture. The glass walls and open-view ceilings still amaze me. I came here with Ray and Maria not too long ago to buy weapons and test out the sim training rooms. The sun is starting to set. The orange light is shining through the building's open roof as I started to go upstairs. Moments later, I made it to the 8th floor and walked over to the familiar shop. A woman wearing a suit greeted me with a small bow. Welcome to Apollo's Sword Shop. Will it just be you today? Yes, just me. Are you buying, selling, or crafting? Please show me your hunter's license. I handed her my ID. I guess I'll be crafting. I'd like to see a blacksmith if that's possible. She nodded and gave me back my ID. All right, follow me. She motioned for me to follow her inside. Once we entered the store, she spoke to a man wearing an identical suit to her own. I need a blacksmith for a D-class hunter. The man nodded and looked me in the eyes. Please come with me, sir. I followed him to the back of the room, and we went through a red curtain on the wall with a sign above it reading VIP in black letters and a gold frame. Please enter the 3rd room on your left. Your blacksmith is ready for you. I opened the door after walking down the empty hallway. A short, bald man sat at the end of a long brown table in a well-lit room with black walls. Welcome, welcome. The name's Frederick. What can I do for you today? Nice to meet you.
I'm Jay.
I'd like to have a sword made. I took the Minotaur horn out of my item box and set it down on the table. The bald man's eyes lit up and he started examining the item. This is no ordinary item. You're looking to make yourself a one-of-a-kind C-class weapon today, aren't you? Well, yes. I was hoping you could craft something worth my while. He continued examining the item and began writing a few things down on a notepad, then looked up at me. You know, we may get some C-grade element stones after this surge is over. It would be a shame to craft such a fine piece of material without bringing out its full potential. I looked at him in confusion. Element stones? What are those? Sometimes rare drops trickle down into the public market from higher-ranking dungeons. The only dungeon I know of that produces element stones in the Vice region is the C-class Advanced Ogre dungeon. The only other possible place would be the Labyrinth, and no one is crazy enough to go in there these days. I nodded and let him babble on. This is the type of guy that just loves the sound of his own voice. He's a talker. Every once in a while we get a shipment of element stones sent in from the Hunters Association on special order. I've seen a few dozen of them come through here in the last couple of years. They are definitely becoming a bit less rare with the recent surges, but still pretty hard to get your hands on. Okay, that's nice, but what are they? They're stones that give off the energy of a certain element. If you defeat a very strong magic user, there's a small chance they'll drop a stone that correlates with the type of magic they possessed. It will give off massive amounts of magic energy and slowly dissipate into the air unless stored correctly or fused with another magic item that can contain it. I've seen a few water, fire, and earth stones in my day. Those are the most common in my personal experience. I raised an eyebrow if that's what he's describing. I have an element stone, a fire stone to be exact. Say I brought in an element stone. Could you fuse it with this horn to make me a sword? The man shook his head. Unfortunately, no, I can't. We're only permitted to fuse stones authorized by the association. Secondly, I'm not high enough level to fuse stones of that magnitude. I used Inspect. LV. 134. My eyes went dull and I sighed a bit. Of course, they paired me with this guy. I'm a D-class solo hunter. They wouldn't expect me to come in here with C-class materials. Do you think there's any place in town that could fuse an element stone without an authorization? He scratched his head and thought for a moment. I can't help you there. I'm sure there's a black market for this kind of thing, but I don't recommend you get involved in that kind of thing. People go missing all the time in those parts of the city. I nodded and placed the Minotaur horn back into my item box. Hey, thanks for the help and the information. I think I'm going to wait a little while before crafting this sword. You're right, an element stone would be a great addition. He nodded and smiled. The man didn't seem too disappointed that he'd just lost a customer by running his mouth. This must happen often. It's okay. Come back in after the surge finishes up. There's a chance we may have what you're looking for in stock. I thanked the man again and walked out the door to make my way down to the ground level. That wasn't a total waste of time. I did learn some pretty good info. Gurgly Lee. My stomach curled up into a ball and threatened to come up my throat. I haven't eaten all day. I need something now. I walked all the way back toward the food market and found a busy local bar. I sat next to an older-looking man and gave him a head nod as I got the bartender's attention. Could I get your special, and whatever beer you have on draft? Sure thing, coming right up. I nodded and sat back with a sigh and looked at the sky. The old man turned to me. I took a good look at him. He wore a very sturdy leather jacket, worn-out jeans, and big black heavy boots. His hands were rough and covered in a substance that looks like it's been caked on for decades. A true working man. I wonder what he does here in the city. Hey, what do you do for work, old man? He chuckled. Oh, you don't want to know, kid. Then gulped down the rest of his beer while motioning for the bartender to get him another glass. I used Inspect out of curiosity. LV. 368. My eyes went wide. Are you a hunter? He laughed at me again. The bartender came back with my food and 2 drinks. One for me and one for the old man. He looked at me with his tired eyes and raised his glass. I raised mine as well. Clink. We both took a long swig. Then he replied. I used to be a hunter. The association banned me from dungeons long ago, though. I could tell by the tone of his voice that it'd be better if I don't ask too many more questions about his past. At the same time, this encounter couldn't have gone any better. Who better to ask for a black market smith? Enough said. He nodded. I began to eat my food. After a few minutes, the old man finished his new drink, and I was nearing the end of my own. He waved the bartender over and asked for another. I interrupted and threw a silver coin on the counter. Drinks on me tonight, old man. He grinned. Now you're speaking my language. The bartender brought over a few more rounds and we drank as the sun set. Eventually, the old man spoke up. All right, kid. I've been around the block a few more times than days you've been alive. I appreciate the drinks, but what is it? What do you want? I raised an eyebrow and gulped down the last of my drink to calm my nerves. I'm new to town. I need an introduction to a good blacksmith. Someone off the books. He smirked and finished his own drink. That's it? I thought this was going to be a lot more serious. Kids these days crack me up. He took a pen off the bar's register and scribbled something down on a napkin. Here. Show up early in the morning and ask for Brianna. She can make whatever you need. Just be ready to pay the price. I took the paper with a wide grin across my face. Thanks a lot. Maybe I'll see you around. Drinks on you next time. He laughed. Yeah, right, kid. With a smile and a wave, I left the bar and started walking towards the inn. What a successful day. I can't wait to get this sword crafted tomorrow.